Hey guys, tonight we're heading north, far north, into a world of fur cloaks, flickering firelight, and deep, silent winters. We're stepping inside a Viking longhouse to explore how Norse families truly slept, not in roaring halls of battle, but in quiet sanctuaries built of wood, straw, and warmth. From layered furs to midnight fire rituals, from shared beds to dream-filled second sleeps, these people knew how to rest. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's settling in around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe put on a blanket, or let a quiet fan hum in the background, and let's slip into the long night together. Into the quiet north, a gentle journey into Viking tranquility. Close your eyes now, and let the weight of this day settle away from your shoulders, like snow falling softly from winter branches. Tonight, we journey together, far from the rushing world, beyond the glow of screens and the hum of engines, back through the mists of time, to a place where silence held a different kind of power. Picture yourself stepping through a doorway made of starlight and memory, leaving behind the concrete and steel, the deadlines and notifications, the endless chatter of modern life. Feel the cool air touch your face, crisp and clean, carrying with it the scent of pine and wood smoke, the distant salt of northern seas. You are walking now, along a path worn smooth by countless feet, through a landscape painted in shades of silver and deep blue. The moon hangs full above you, casting everything in gentle light, illuminating the way forward, toward a place that exists now only in dreams and stories. But tonight it is real for you. Before you stretches a fjord, its dark waters still as polished obsidian, reflecting the stars like scattered diamonds. The mountains rise on either side, ancient sentinels draped in snow, their peaks lost in wisps of cloud that drift like the breath of sleeping giants. Listen to the profound silence. It is not the empty quiet of abandoned places, but the full, rich silence of a world at rest. A silence that holds within it the whisper of wind through pine boughs, the distant call of an owl, the soft lap of water against stone. This is the quiet north, where time moves like honey, where the rhythms of life follow the ancient patterns, the turn of seasons, the cycle of sun and moon, the eternal dance of light and shadow. As you walk closer to the water's edge, you begin to see them, scattered like golden jewels along the shoreline, the longhouses of a Viking settlement, each one glowing softly from within, warm light spilling from small windows, painting golden rectangles on the snow-covered ground. These are not the fierce warriors of legend and storm. These are the quiet Vikings, the ones who knew that true strength comes not from battle, but from the ability to find peace, to create warmth in the cold, to build homes that shelter both body and spirit. See how the smoke rises from their roofs, thin ribbons of gray and white, ascending toward the star-filled sky. Each wisp tells a story of families gathered close, of fires tended with care, of the simple, profound comfort of being home. The largest longhouse sits closest to the water, its timber walls weathered to a soft gray. Its roof, thick with turf and snow, looks like a gentle hill that has learned to shelter human dreams. Golden light seeps through the gaps between wooden planks, and you can almost hear the soft crackling of the hearth within. Move closer now. Let your footsteps make no sound on the snow. You are not an intruder here, but a welcome visitor, invited into this ancient peace, drawn by the warmth that radiates not just from the fires, but from the very spirit of this place. Through a frost-touched window, you glimpse the interior. Rough-hewn timber beams stretch overhead, carved with simple patterns, spirals and knotwork that speak of continuity, of traditions passed from hand to hand, from heart to heart. The central hearth glows with patient flames, fed by logs cut from the surrounding forest, pine and birch that release their stored sunlight, their remembered summers, into the winter night. The fire does not roar or rage, but burns with steady warmth, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. Around the fire, thick furs are spread, bear pelts and wolf skins, seal hide and soft reindeer fur, each one a gift from the wild world, each one carrying the memory of freedom, of running through forests and swimming in cold seas. Now they serve a gentler purpose, offering comfort to those who honor the balance between taking and giving. The air inside is thick with the scent of burning wood, mixed with the smell of wool and leather, of herbs hanging from the rafters, sage and juniper, thyme and heather, plants gathered in the brief, bright summer, now releasing their essence, their healing properties, into the quiet winter air. In the corners of the great room, shadows gather softly, not the harsh darkness of fear, but the gentle darkness of rest, of sanctuary. Here, shadows are friends, companions that help create the intimate spaces, the cozy nooks where children curl up with their wooden toys, where elders sit with their hands folded, watching the fire with eyes that have seen many seasons. The women of the house move quietly, their woolen dresses rustling softly, the colors muted in the firelight, deep blues and rich browns, forest greens and warm grays. They tend the fire with practiced hands. Add a log here, adjust the coals there, their movements economical and graceful, born of years of winter nights, of understanding fire's needs and moods. One woman sits at a wooden loom, her fingers working the threads with automatic skill, creating patterns that will become cloaks and blankets. She works not from necessity alone, but from the ancient satisfaction of making something beautiful, something that will bring warmth to those she loves. The men sit nearby, some carving pieces of wood, others mending nets or sharpening tools. Their voices, when they speak at all, are low and measured, like the rumble of distant thunder. They speak of the weather, of the condition of the boats, of plans for spring, practical things, but said with the weight of ritual, as if each word is a prayer for the continuing of life. Children play quietly on the furs near the fire, their games simple and timeless. Wooden horses gallop across imaginary battlefields. Dolls made of straw and wool are tucked into tiny beds. The children's laughter is soft, like the sound of water over stones, their faces glowing in the firelight, their eyes heavy with the sweet fatigue of a day well spent. Above them all, the smoke from the fire rises through the smoke hole in the roof, carrying with it the essence of this peaceful evening, the prayers and hopes, the quiet contentments, rising to join the stars, to become part of the great tapestry of night. Outside, the village sleeps. One by one, the golden windows begin to dim, as families bank their fires, arrange their furs, settle into the deep rest that comes after honest work, after a day lived in harmony with the rhythms of nature. The snow continues to fall, soft and steady, adding another layer to the blanket that covers the earth. Each flake unique, each one a small miracle of ice and air. They settle on the roofs of the longhouses, on the bare branches of birch trees, on the frozen surface of the fjord, creating a world of pristine silence. In the distance, a wolf calls, its voice lonely and wild, but not threatening. It is simply the voice of the wilderness, singing its ancient song, a reminder that this village, this human warmth, exists in partnership with the wild world, not in opposition to it. The aurora begins to dance across the northern sky, ribbons of green and blue light, writhing and shifting like celestial serpents. The Vikings watch from their windows, filled not with fear but with wonder, seeing in those lights the presence of their ancestors, the spirits of the land, the visible proof that the world is filled with mystery and magic. Time moves differently here. Minutes stretch like hours. Hours pass like heartbeats. There is no urgency, no rushing toward tomorrow, only the eternal present, the eternal now, where warmth and safety and love create a space outside of time. Feel yourself settling into this rhythm, this ancient peace. Let your breathing slow to match the gentle pulse of the fire. Let your heartbeat synchronize with the quiet life of this place. You belong here, in this moment between moments, in this space where all is well. The night deepens. The stars will overhead in their endless dance. The village sleeps more soundly, wrapped in snow and starlight. The fires burn lower, but they will not die. They will be tended through the night, kept alive by those who understand that some things must never be allowed to fade. This is the wisdom of the quiet north, that peace is not the absence of struggle, but the presence of acceptance. That warmth comes not from avoiding the cold, but from gathering together, from sharing what we have, from creating light in the darkness. As you rest here, in this imagined place, in this sanctuary of the mind, feel the stress of your modern world melting away, like snow in spring sunshine. Let go of the need to hurry, to achieve, to prove, to accomplish. Instead, simply be, like the Vikings of this quiet village, who understood that the greatest victory is not won in battle, but in the daily choice to create warmth, to offer shelter, to tend the fires that keep hope alive. The longhouse breathes around you, the timber settling with soft creaks and sighs, like the satisfied sounds of a sleeping giant. The furs are soft beneath you, the fire warm upon your face, the darkness gentle and welcoming. Here, in the quiet north, you can rest. You can lay down the burdens of tomorrow, the regrets of yesterday, and sink into the eternal now, where time is measured not in minutes, but in heartbeats, not in deadlines, but in the slow, steady rhythm of life lived in harmony with itself. The wind outside speaks in whispers, telling stories of distant places, of other times, of the continuity that connects all things, all people, all moments. You're part of this story, part of this great tapestry, woven from starlight and firelight, from love and loss, from the simple, profound act of being alive. Sleep comes easily here, natural as breathing, as inevitable as sunrise. Your eyes grow heavy, your limbs sink into the soft furs, your breathing deepens, matches the rhythm of the fire, the heartbeat of the earth, the ancient pulse of peace. The northern lights continue their dance, painting the sky with dreams, with possibilities, with the wordless promise that all will be well, has always been well, will always be well, in the deep places, in the quiet spaces, in the eternal now where love is born and reborn, moment by moment, breath by breath. And as you drift toward sleep, toward rest, toward the gentle surrender of consciousness, carry with you the warmth of this place, the peace of the quiet north, the knowledge that somewhere, beyond the reach of time and worry, this sanctuary exists, waiting for you. Whenever you need to remember what it means to be truly at home, the fire settles with a soft whisper. The snow continues to fall. The village sleeps. And you are safe. You are warm. You are exactly where you belong, in the eternal embrace of the quiet north. And so we enter this ancient world, this place of peace and firelight, where the wisdom of generations whispers in the wind. And every breath is a prayer of gratitude for the simple miracle of being alive in this moment, in this quiet, blessed moment. Let us journey deeper now, into the heart of this northern sanctuary, where stories are born in the dancing flames, and every shadow holds a secret, every silence, a song, the longhouse and the shared bed, a journey into the heart of Viking warmth. Now, as the northern wind whispers its ancient songs, and the last embers of twilight fade into star-touched darkness, we step across the threshold, into the very heart of Viking sanctuary, the longhouse, where generations found their rest, their refuge, their home. Feel the heavy wooden door close softly behind you, shutting out the cold, the uncertainty, the vast wilderness that stretches beyond. Here, within these timber walls, begins a different world, a world built for warmth, for sharing, for the deep, abiding peace that comes when humans gather together against the darkness. The longhouse stands before you, not as a building, but as a living thing, breathing with the rhythm of its inhabitants. Its walls, crafted from oak and pine, trees that once stood tall in ancient forests, now serving a new purpose, sheltering those who honor their sacrifice with gratitude, with care, with the wisdom of making sacred spaces. Run your hand along the weathered wood. Feel how the timber has been smoothed by countless hands, countless shoulders that have brushed against these walls. Each mark, each worn groove, tells a story of daily life, of morning risings and evening returns, of children growing tall enough to reach these same timbers that their grandparents once carved with loving hands. The structure rises around you, solid and reassuring, its frame built with joints that lock together, like fingers interlaced in prayer. No nails hold this sanctuary, only the ancient knowledge of how wood speaks to wood, how beam supports beam, in the eternal dance of shelter and strength. Above your head, the great roof timbers arch like the ribs of some gentle giant, turned protector. These beams, hand-hewn with axes, bear the weight of turf and snow, of seasons upon seasons, of time itself, yet they do not strain or groan beneath their burden. They rest, as naturally as mountains rest, carrying their load with quiet dignity. Between the rafters, smoke drifts slowly, carrying with it the essence of home, the prayers of the hearth, the warm breath of all who dwell here. This smoke, this sacred mist, finds its way through gaps in the roof, where a hole opens to the sky, connecting this earthbound sanctuary to the vast cathedral of stars and wind and endless night. The floor beneath your feet, worn smooth by generations, creaks gently as you walk, a wooden song, a timber hymn that speaks of the countless feet that have walked this path from door to hearth, from hearth to bed, in the eternal rhythm of coming home, to rest, to safety, to love. And here along the walls, raised like altars to the god of sleep, stand the sleeping platforms, the shared beds, where the deepest wisdom of Viking rest unfolds like petals in the warmth of understanding. These are not beds as you might know them, not islands of solitude, not barriers against connection. These platforms, built wide and welcoming, speak of a different truth, a deeper knowing, that warmth shared is warmth multiplied, that comfort given is comfort received, that in the darkness we need not be alone. Approach the nearest platform. Notice how it stands raised above the stone floor, lifting its occupants into the warmer air, away from drafts, from cold, from the earth's winter chill. This elevation, this gentle lifting, is more than practical, it is symbolic, raising those who rest here closer to the fire's warmth, closer to each other, closer to the simple miracle of shared breath, shared dreams, shared peace. The platform stretches long, longer than any modern bed, wide enough for entire families, for grandparents and parents, for children and infants, all nestled together, like birds in a winter roost, finding in their closeness not just warmth, but something deeper, something that speaks to the very heart of what it means to belong. Upon this wooden foundation, layers of comfort unfold like petals, each layer placed with intention, with the wisdom of those who understand that rest is not luxury, but necessity, not selfishness, but sacred duty to oneself, to family, to the continuation of life itself. First come the straw mattresses, thick pallets stuffed with dried grasses, with reeds from summer marshes, with the sweet-smelling herbs that grew in bright meadows when the world was green and warm and full of promise. This straw, now golden and soft, cradles the body like the earth itself, offering support with the gentleness of a mother's arms. The straw rustles softly as bodies settle, a whispered lullaby that speaks of harvest time, of gathering, of the foresight wisdom that stores summer's abundance for winter's need. Each stalk, a memory of sunshine, each seed, a promise that spring will come again, that this darkness, this cold, this time of rest, is but one movement in the eternal symphony of seasons. Over the straw, woolen blankets spread like gentle clouds. These blankets, woven on long winter evenings by mothers and daughters, grandmothers and granddaughters, their fingers working in the ancient rhythm of warp and weft, of over and under, creating not just cloth, but love made manifest in every thread, every pattern, every gentle color. The wool itself carries stories of sheep that grazed on northern hillsides, their fleece growing thick in response to harsh weather, to bitter winds, to the necessity of warmth. Now that same protective instinct, that same natural wisdom, extends its shelter to the human family that cared for the flock, that tended the sheep with gratitude and respect. Feel the texture of these woolen covers, slightly rough, honest in their simplicity, yet incredibly warm, holding within their fibers the memory of life, of animals, of seasons, of the great web of interdependence that connects all things, all beings in the sacred circle of giving and receiving. But it is the furs, the magnificent furs, that transform these sleeping platforms into realms of pure comfort, pure sanctuary, pure bliss. Here, spread with generous abundance, are the pelts of creatures who once ruled the northern wilderness. Bare furs, thick and luxurious, their brown depths, soft as clouds, warm as summer earth. These great bears, who slept through winter in caves of their own making, now offer their gift of perfect insulation, of warmth so complete, it seems to emanate from the very essence of life itself. Wolf pelts, gray and silver, spread like shadows, made soft. Their fur, dense and warm, carries still the memory of freedom, of running through forests under star-filled skies. Now they serve a gentler purpose, offering comfort to those who honored their wild spirits with respect, with ceremony, with gratitude. Seal skins, dark and sleek, provide another layer. Their natural oils repel moisture, keep dampness from seeping through, while their thick hide blocks drafts, creates pockets of still air, where warmth can gather and grow and spread like happiness through the family that rests together. Reindeer hides, soft as whispers, light as dreams, complete the layered sanctuary. These gentle creatures, who migrate across the frozen tundra, following paths older than memory, now provide their final gift, for so fine, so perfectly suited to the northern cold, that those who rest beneath it feel embraced by the very spirit of survival, of adaptation, of thriving in harsh beauty. Each fur, Each pelt has been prepared with loving care, scraped clean by patient hands, softened with oils and thyme, and the ancient knowledge, passed down through generations, of mothers teaching daughters the sacred art of making comfort from necessity. The furs lie layered, thick upon thick, creating a landscape of softness that yields to every contour of the bodies that rest upon them. They hold warmth like precious treasure, creating microclimates of perfect temperature, where children can sleep naked in the depths of winter, protected, surrounded, embraced by this cocoon of natural protection. And now, as evening deepens into true night, the families gather for the ancient ritual of preparing for rest. This is not a hurried retreat from consciousness, but a gentle ceremony, a gradual transition from the world of doing to the world of being, from wakefulness to dreams. Watch as they come, drawn by the irresistible pull of warmth, of comfort, of the primal need to gather close. When darkness falls, the eldest move slowly, with dignity, their bones carrying the wisdom of countless seasons. Their movements deliberate, measured, speak of lives well-lived, of rest well-earned. The parents come next, their faces softened by firelight, by the satisfaction of another day, of work completed, of family tended, of the simple, profound victory of surviving and thriving in a world that demands strength, but rewards those who understand that true strength lies in knowing when to yield, when to rest, when to let go. The children arrive like small birds, seeking the warmth of the nest. Their laughter, like silver bells, rings softly in the timber cathedral of the longhouse. They bring with them the day's adventures, the scraped knees and dirty faces that speak of childhood lived outdoors in connection with the wild world that surrounds and sustains their home. One by one, they settle onto the great platform, children nestling against parents, parents drawing close to grandparents, grandparents opening their arms to receive the newest members of the family, infants who sleep with the profound peace of those who have never known true want, true fear, true loneliness. This arrangement is not born of poverty or lack of space. It is chosen, embraced, celebrated as the deepest wisdom of survival, not just of body, but of spirit. For these Vikings understand what modern life has forgotten, that we are not meant to face the darkness alone. Feel the warmth beginning to build as bodies settle close. It starts as individual heat, the natural radiation of living creatures, but quickly becomes something more, something greater, a shared warmth that multiplies with each additional heartbeat, each gentle breath, each quiet sigh of contentment. The grandmother lies at the center, her body a furnace of accumulated life, her warmth, earned through decades of bearing children, of working, of loving, now serves as the foundation, the hearth around which all other warmth gathers and grows. Beside her, the grandfather, his large frame a windbreak against drafts. His chest rises and falls with the rhythm of deep satisfaction of a man who has built, with his own hands, this sanctuary, this place of peace, where his family can rest in safety, in warmth, and love. The parents arrange themselves like guardian spirits, their bodies creating a protective circle around the smaller forms of their children. Even in sleep, their awareness extends like gentle tentacles, monitoring the breathing, the movement, the dreams of those they have sworn to protect. The children settle into the spaces between like water, finding its level. The youngest curl against their mother's breasts, feeling the steady heartbeat that once was their whole world. The older ones stretch like cats, finding the perfect position where shoulder meets shoulder, where warmth meets warmth, where safety is not just promised, but physically present. And in the corners, where platform meets wall, small animals make their own contributions to this community of warmth. A favorite cat purrs softly, its body a small furnace of contentment. A loyal dog stretches along the platform's edge, its thick coat adding another layer of insulation, its presence a comfort that speaks of faithfulness, of protection, of the bond between human and animal that transcends species and finds its expression in shared sleep, shared dreams, shared peace. Even the goats, in winter's deepest grip, might find their place in this arrangement, their body heat, practical, necessary, life-saving. But more than that, their presence speaks of the integration of all life, the understanding that survival is not a solitary endeavor, but a community effort, where each contributes what they can and receives what they need. The firs respond to this gathering of bodies, beginning to trap the rising warmth, creating pockets of heated air that circulate gently through the layers. Like a living thing, the bed begins to breathe with the rhythm of its occupants, inhaling cool air, exhaling warmth and comfort and peace. This is alchemy of the most ancient kind, the transformation of individual vulnerability into collective strength, the magic that turns separate heartbeats into a symphony, separate breaths into a shared rhythm, separate dreams into a family's vision of tomorrow. As the night deepens, the warmth continues to build. Bodies that began the evening slightly cool from the day's work gradually warm through. The cold that might have settled in fingers and toes melts away like snow in spring sunshine, replaced by a heat so gentle, so encompassing, that it seems to radiate from the very soul. The breathing begins to synchronize. Without conscious effort, without intention, the family begins to breathe as one. Grandmother's deep, slow rhythm setting the pace for all the others, a metronome of life, of continuity, of the eternal heartbeat that connects all generations in the sacred chain of being. Children who might have tossed and turned in solitary beds settle into profound stillness, their small bodies relaxing completely into the certainty that they are held not just by fur and platform, but by love made manifest in the willingness of parents and grandparents to share not just space, but breath, warmth, dreams, and the vulnerable surrender of sleep. The platform itself seems to respond to this gathering of family. The wood, worn smooth by generations of sleepers, holds the accumulated warmth of countless nights, countless dreams, countless peaceful mornings. It has become more than furniture, more than practical necessity. It has become a sacred space where the deepest bonds are forged and renewed, night after night, season after season, year after year. Listen to the gentle sounds that rise from this community of sleepers. The soft rustle of furs shifting as someone turns in sleep, the quiet whisper of breath through relaxed lips, the occasional contented sigh that speaks of tension, leaving the body of stress melting away like ice in warm water. Sometimes a child murmurs in sleep, words from the day's adventures, or perhaps messages from the dream world that unfolds behind closed eyes. These sounds, rather than disturbing the others, seem to add to the peace. Gentle reminders that life continues, even in rest, that dreams are simply another form of shared experience. The grandmother might shift slightly, drawing a grandchild closer, her movements automatic, born of decades of mothering. Her body knows without her mind's interference how to shelter, how to protect, how to warm those she loves. Even in sleep, her care continues like a river that flows regardless of season, regardless of weather, regardless of time. The fire in the central hearth burns lower, but never dies, tended through the night by those who understand that some things are too precious to risk. Its glow reaches even here to the sleeping platform, painting the firs in shades of gold and amber, creating a visual warmth that complements the physical comfort of shared body heat. The smoke from this eternal fire continues its lazy drift toward the roof, carrying with it the dreams of the sleepers, their hopes, fears, wishes all rising into the night, joining the stars in their eternal dance. This smoke becomes a bridge between the earthbound world of rest and the infinite realm of possibility. Outside, the wind continues its ancient conversation with the longhouse walls. But here, inside, surrounded by timber and love and the accumulated warmth of family, the wind becomes merely a lullaby, a distant song that speaks of the world beyond but cannot touch the sanctuary within. The snow falls steadily, adding layer upon layer to the winter's blanket. Each flake, a small miracle of crystallized water, transformed by cold into beauty, into insulation, into protection. The longhouse roof receives this gift gratefully, becoming even more sealed even more separate from the harsh world beyond. In the deepest part of the night, when the world outside seems most distant, most unreal, the sleeping platform becomes its own universe. A place where the rules of separation do not apply, where the boundaries between self and other dissolve into the greater truth of interconnection. A child's small hand might rest on a parent's chest, feeling the steady rhythm that once was their entire world. A grandmother's arm might encircle a sleeping grandchild, her dreams mixing with theirs, creating new stories, new possibilities, new hope for tomorrow. The firs hold within their softness not just warmth but memory, the memory of wild places, of freedom, of the untamed world that exists beyond the longhouse walls. But here, in this domestic sanctuary, that wildness is transformed into something gentler, something that serves love rather than survival, comfort rather than conquest. As the night reaches its deepest point, the point where darkness and rest achieve perfect balance, the shared bed becomes a ship carrying its precious cargo through the sea of night toward the distant shore of morning. But morning is still hours away. Hours of this perfect warmth, this perfect peace. Hours of rest so deep, so complete, that it reaches into the very marrow of the bones, into the deepest places where exhaustion and worry like to hide. The platform creaks occasionally, a sound so gentle, so familiar, that it becomes part of the rhythm of rest. Part of the lullaby that the longhouse sings to its inhabitants, a wooden song of shelter, of protection, of the ancient promise that some places are sacred, some spaces are safe, some moments are eternal. Feel yourself settling into this arrangement. Feel your own body warming from the shared heat of those around you. Feel the firs yielding to your weight, creating a nest perfectly shaped to hold you. Feel the platform supporting you with the strength of generations of craftsmen who understood that good work serves good rest. Your breathing slows, deepens, matches the rhythm of those around you. Your heartbeat finds its place in the symphony of life that plays throughout the longhouse. Your dreams, when they come, will be shared dreams, dreams that belong not just to you but to the community of rest that holds you in its gentle embrace. This is the deepest wisdom of the shared bed, the understanding that we are not meant to face the darkness alone, that warmth shared is warmth multiplied, that love expressed through the simple act of sleeping close becomes a prayer more powerful than words. The night continues its slow passage. The stars wheel overhead in their ancient patterns. The aurora dances its silent dance across the northern sky. But here in the heart of the longhouse, in the center of the shared bedtime, stands still, suspended in the amber of perfect contentment. Children grow in their sleep, nourished not just by food but by the constant presence of love. Adults heal from the day's labors, their muscles relaxing, their minds releasing the burdens they carried. Elders rest with the deep satisfaction of those who have created something beautiful, something lasting, something that will outlive them. The shared bed becomes a cradle, rocking gently through the night, carrying its precious cargo of dreams and hopes and love toward the distant promise of dawn. But dawn is not an ending here. Dawn is simply another beginning, another chance to gather in this sacred space, another opportunity to share the miracle of rest, the gift of warmth, the blessing of belonging. And as the deepest part of night embraces the longhouse, as the shared bed holds its sleeping family in perfect warmth and perfect peace, we too can rest in the knowledge that somewhere in the heart of memory this sanctuary exists, waiting for us whenever we need to remember what it means to be truly warm, truly safe, truly at home. The firs rustle softly one last time. The fire settles in the hearth with a gentle whisper. The shared bed holds its treasure of sleeping souls, and the night deepens into the perfect darkness, where all healing happens, where all love is born, where all rest becomes a prayer of gratitude for the simple, profound miracle of being together, being warm, being safe, being home. And so we rest in the embrace of this ancient wisdom, this knowledge that warmth shared becomes warmth multiplied, that sleep, surrounded by love, becomes the deepest healing. In the shared bed of the longhouse, we find not just physical comfort, but the very essence of what it means to belong, to be held, to be home. Let us carry this warmth With us now, as we journey deeper into the night, deeper into the heart of Viking peace, where other secrets of rest and renewal wait to unfold like flowers in the darkness, like dreams in the depths of sleep. Natural sleep rhythms of the Norse, following the ancient dance of light and shadow. In the quiet sanctuary of the longhouse, where warmth has gathered and bodies have settled into their shared embrace, another kind of magic begins to unfold. The magic of time itself flowing, not by the harsh tick of mechanical clocks, but by the ancient rhythm, the eternal dance of light and shadow, sun and moon, wakefulness and sleep. The Vikings, these dwellers of the northern lands, knew a secret that our modern world has forgotten. They understood that sleep is not a defeat of consciousness, but a partnership with the very pulse of the earth. A collaboration with forces far older and far wiser than human ambition. Close your eyes and feel yourself stepping back through the corridors of time. Leave behind the harsh glow of screens, the restless buzz of electricity, the artificial urgency that tells us we must fight the darkness, must resist the call to rest. Step into a world where light and shadow are not enemies but dance partners in the eternal ballet of existence. Here, in the land of the midnight sun and the polar night, the Vikings learned to read the subtle language of the sky. They became fluent in the dialect of seasons, conversant with the grammar of gradual change. Masters of the art of living in harmony with rhythms that pulse through the very heart of nature. Feel the earth turning slowly beneath your feet. Feel the ancient tilt that brings the northern lands closer to the sun in summer, farther in winter. This is not merely astronomy but biography. The story of how human bodies, human souls learn to breathe with the breathing of the planet itself. In summer, when the sun barely sets, painting the sky in endless twilight, the Vikings worked with the light, their bodies responding to the gift of extended daylight. Sleep came in shorter bursts, deeper but briefer. Like the intense, concentrated dreams of those who know that rest is precious because it is brief. Watch as the summer sun traces its lazy arc across the northern sky, never quite disappearing but dimming to a golden glow that transforms the world into something ethereal, something magical. The fjords become mirrors reflecting this endless light. The mountains stand like sentinels bathed in perpetual amber. In this season of light, sleep becomes different, lighter, more responsive to the rhythms of work and rest that flow like tides throughout the endless day. Bodies rest when they are tired, wake when they are refreshed, following an internal clock that ticks not with mechanical precision, but with the organic rhythm of life itself. The Vikings might sleep for a few hours, wake to tend the animals or check the nets, then rest again. Their sleep fragmented, but never frustrated. They understood that summer was a time for gathering, for working, for storing the abundance that would carry them through the long darkness to come. Children in this season of light sleep like cats in sunbeams, curled wherever exhaustion finds them, their small bodies trusting completely in the safety of endless light. They wake refreshed, ready for another day of exploration, of learning, of growing into the ancient wisdom of their people. But as the wheel of the year turns, as the earth continues its eternal dance around the sun, the light begins to change. Gradually, almost imperceptibly at first, the sun begins to set a little earlier each night. The sky remembers how to be dark. This is not a sudden shock, but a gentle transition, a gradual invitation to a different kind of living. The Vikings feel this change not as loss, but as transformation. Their bodies beginning to prepare for the great rest that is coming, the deep healing sleep of winter. Feel your own body responding to this ancient memory. Feel how as darkness increases, something deep within you begins to slow, begins to prepare for rest. This is not laziness but wisdom, not weakness but strength. The strength to yield, to flow with the natural rhythm instead of fighting against it. The autumn light becomes different, softer, more golden, like honey poured over the landscape. The Vikings notice these changes with the attention of those whose lives depend on reading the subtle signs of nature's mood. They see how the light slants differently through the smoke hole of the longhouse, how the shadows grow longer, how the very air seems to thicken with the promise of coming rest. Their bodies begin to change in response. Without conscious thought, without artificial intervention, their internal clocks begin to reset. Melatonin, that gentle hormone of rest, begins to flow more freely in their bloodstreams, triggered not by pills or supplements, but by the ancient signal of lengthening darkness. This melatonin rises like a tide in their bodies as the sun sets earlier and earlier each day. It flows through their veins like liquid peace, like the very essence of night made chemical, made real in the biology of rest. No artificial lights disturb this natural process. No screens flood their eyes with the harsh blue light that confuses the ancient pathways of sleep. The only light they know is the warm golden glow of fire, flames that dance in frequencies that soothe rather than stimulate, that prepare the body for rest rather than resistance. Watch as the Viking family settles into their evening routine, as the early darkness of autumn wraps around the longhouse like a soft blanket. The fire burns lower, casting dancing shadows on the timber walls. These shadows do not flicker with the harsh strobe of artificial light, but move with the organic rhythm of flames fed by wood, by the stored sunlight of trees. The children begin to yawn earlier. Their small bodies respond instantly to the darkening sky. Their eyes grow heavy, not from boredom or exhaustion, but from the gentle chemical tide of melatonin that rises with the setting sun. They curl into their parents' arms like small animals seeking warmth and safety in the growing darkness. The adults feel it too, this gentle pull toward rest. Their conversations become softer, more contemplative. The urgent business of the day fades into the background, replaced by the deeper rhythms of reflection, of gratitude, of the slow preparation for sleep that comes naturally when the body is allowed to follow its ancient wisdom. As autumn deepens into winter, the transformation becomes more pronounced. The sun rises later, sets earlier, until there are days when it barely seems to rise at all. The world outside the longhouse becomes a realm of blue twilight, of stars and snow, of the deep quiet that only comes when the earth itself is resting. This is the season of the great sleep, when the Vikings surrender to the rhythm that their bodies crave. They sleep longer, deeper, more completely than any modern person dares to dream. 12, 13, 14 hours of rest stretch through the long Arctic night like a bridge between one day and the next. But this is not the heavy, drugged sleep of those who fight against nature. This is the clear, pure rest of those who flow with the current rather than swimming against it. Sleep that comes easily, naturally, inevitably as the darkness deepens and the melatonin rises like a gentle tide in their bloodstreams. Feel yourself settling into this ancient rhythm. Feel how your own body wants to respond to the darkness, how something deep within you remembers this older way of being. Let go of the modern notion that sleep is time wasted, that rest is weakness, that you must fight against the natural desire to slow down when the world grows dark. In the longhouse, as the polar night deepens, the family settles into a different rhythm entirely. They wake later, move more slowly through their daily tasks, eat their meals by firelight, tell their stories in the dancing shadows of the hearth. Everything slows down, becomes more deliberate, more mindful, more connected to the essential rhythms of survival and rest. The children sleep like hibernating bears, curled deep in their furs, their small bodies growing even as they rest, nourished by the deep healing that comes only in the darkest hours of sleep. Their dreams are long and vivid, filled with the adventures of summer and the promises of spring to come. The adults use this time for the deep rest that their bodies crave after the intense activity of the bright months. Their muscles repair themselves in the darkness, their minds process the experiences of the year, their spirits renew themselves in the profound quiet of the polar night. Even the elders sleep more deeply in this season, their old bones grateful for the long hours of rest. Their dreams are filled with memories of other winters, other seasons of rest and renewal. They sleep with the profound peace of those who have learned to trust the ancient rhythms that govern all life. No alarm clocks disturb this natural process. No artificial schedules demand that they wake before their bodies are ready. They sleep until sleep is finished, until their bodies have taken what they need from the healing darkness, until they wake naturally, refreshed and ready for whatever the short winter day might bring. The quality of this sleep is different from anything our modern world knows. It is sleep uncontaminated by artificial light, by the electromagnetic fields of electronic devices, by the stress hormones that flood our systems when we try to maintain summer schedules in winter darkness. Their melatonin flows freely, abundantly, triggered by the natural darkness that surrounds them. This hormone of rest works as nature intended, not fighting against artificial interference, but flowing like a river toward the sea, carrying them gently into the depths of restorative sleep. In these depths, their bodies perform the ancient alchemy of healing. Cells repair themselves, memories consolidate, toxins are flushed from the brain. Growth hormone pulses through their systems, rebuilding, strengthening, preparing them for the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead when the light returns. But the healing is not just physical. In the profound darkness of the polar night, spirits too find their rest. The constant stimulation of summer gives way to the deep contemplation of winter. Minds that have been occupied with the immediate demands of survival now have space to wander, to dream, to connect with the deeper mysteries of existence. This is when the great stories are born, in the darkness, in the space between waking and sleeping, when the mind is free to explore the realms of imagination and memory. The sagas that will be told for generations often have their birth in these quiet winter nights when consciousness flows like water between the world of dreams and the world of waking. Listen to the profound silence of the winter night outside the longhouse. It is not the dead silence of absence, but the full, rich silence of presence. The silence of snow falling, of the earth resting, of all life turning inward to the essential work of renewal and regeneration. This silence enters the longhouse, seeps into the very timber of the walls. It becomes part of the atmosphere of rest, part of the sacred space where the Vikings surrender to the ancient rhythm of seasonal sleep. It is a silence that does not need to be filled but simply experienced, simply allowed to work its quiet magic. In this silence, in this darkness, the Vikings discover what our modern world has forgotten: that rest is not the opposite of productivity, but its very foundation. That sleep is not time stolen from life, but time invested in life's deepest purposes. That the darkness is not something to be feared or fought, but something to be embraced, welcomed, celebrated. As the winter deepens, the Vikings settle even more completely into this rhythm of rest. Their bodies become like the earth itself, dormant but not dead, resting but not inactive. In the depths of their cells, the work of healing continues. In the quiet spaces of their minds, the work of integration, of wisdom gathering goes on. They eat less but more deliberately. Their bodies learn to burn the stored fat of summer abundance, to find energy in the quiet rhythms of winter rest. They move less but more purposefully. Every action is considered, every movement economical, efficient, connected to the essential work of staying warm, staying alive, staying connected to the family and community that makes survival possible. The fire burns differently in winter. Lower, steadier, more constant. It becomes not just a source of heat, but a meditation, a focal point for the long hours of wakefulness that punctuate the even longer hours of sleep. The flames dance in patterns that speak to something deep in the human soul, patterns that our ancestors watched for thousands of years, finding in them stories, meanings, connections to the great mystery of existence. As you rest here in this imagined longhouse, feel how your own body wants to respond to this ancient wisdom. Feel how something deep within you remembers this older way of being, this seasonal rhythm that flows with the natural cycles of light and darkness rather than fighting against them. Let your breathing slow to match the rhythm of those who sleep around you. Let your heartbeat synchronize with the ancient pulse of winter rest. Feel the melatonin beginning to flow in your own bloodstream, triggered not by artificial aids, but by the simple memory of darkness, of the natural darkness that our bodies crave and our spirits need. This is the gift of the Viking way of sleep, the understanding that rest is not a luxury but a necessity, not an indulgence but a sacred duty to the body that carries us through life, to the mind that serves us in our daily struggles, to the spirit that connects us to something larger than ourselves. In the deepest part of the winter night, when the aurora dances across the sky in ribbons of green and gold, the sleeping Vikings dream together. Their consciousness flows like underground rivers toward the same distant sea. They dream of spring, of the return of light, of the work and adventure that await them in the bright months ahead. But they also dream of this darkness, this rest, this profound peace that comes only in the depths of winter. They dream of the longhouse, of the shared warmth of the furs and the fire and the gentle breathing of those they love. These dreams sustain them through the long nights and will call them back when the wheel of the year turns once again toward darkness. Feel yourself joining this ancient dream. Feel your own consciousness flowing toward the same sea of rest and renewal. Let go of the modern anxiety about sleep, the worry that you are not getting enough or the right kind, or at the right time. Trust instead in the ancient wisdom of your body, in the rhythms that have sustained human life for countless generations. The Viking way of sleep is not about forcing rest, but about allowing it, not about conquering insomnia, but about surrendering to the natural flow of wakefulness and rest that moves through us like tides, like seasons, like the very breath of life itself. As the long winter night continues, as the snow falls softly on the longhouse roof, as the fire burns steadily in the central hearth, the Vikings rest in the profound peace of those who have learned to trust the darkness, to welcome the quiet, to find in the depths of night not emptiness but fullness, not absence but presence, not death but the very source of life. And slowly, imperceptibly, the wheel of the year begins to turn again. The days begin to lengthen minute by minute. The sun climbs a little higher each day, stays a little longer in the sky. The Vikings feel this change in their bodies before they see it in the sky. Their internal clock's sensitive to the slightest shift in the balance of light and darkness. Gradually, their sleep begins to change too, becoming lighter, briefer, more responsive to the increasing light. Their bodies preparing for the return of the active season, for the work and adventure that await them in the bright months ahead. But they carry with them the memory of this deep rest, this profound peace that sustained them through the darkness. This is the eternal cycle, the ancient rhythm that governs all life. The movement between activity and rest, light and darkness, summer and winter, waking and sleeping. The Vikings understood that both are necessary, both are sacred, both are part of the great dance of existence. They did not try to live in perpetual summer, did not fight against the coming of winter, did not fear the darkness or resist the call to rest. Instead, they flowed with these rhythms, found in them not obstacles to overcome but gifts to receive, opportunities for different kinds of growth, different forms of wisdom, different depths of peace. As we rest here in this ancient sanctuary, as we feel our own bodies beginning to remember these older rhythms, we too can learn to trust the darkness, to welcome the quiet, to find in the depths of rest not emptiness but fullness, not weakness but strength, not the end of consciousness but its deepest transformation. The longhouse breathes around us, its timber walls expanding and contracting with the rhythm of the seasons. The fire burns steady and eternal, a reminder that some things endure through all changes, all seasons, all the long cycles of light and darkness. The firs hold us in their soft embrace, and we sleep the deep, natural sleep of those who have learned to live in harmony with the ancient rhythms of the earth. And so we discover the ancient secret of natural rest, the wisdom of flowing with the seasons of our own inner rhythms. Here in the darkness, we find not emptiness, but the very source of renewal, of healing, of the deep peace that comes when we stop fighting the night and learn instead to dance with its gentle, eternal rhythms. Let us carry this ancient knowing with us as we journey deeper into the heart of Viking wisdom, where other secrets of peace and contentment wait to unfold like stars emerging one by one in the deepening darkness of perfect rest. First sleep, second sleep. A gentle journey into Viking rest. In the deep heart of winter, when the Norse lands lay wrapped in their longest nights, there existed a rhythm of rest that moved like the very breathing of the earth itself. A rhythm that knew nothing of our modern urgency, nothing of the bright artificial suns that chase away our natural darkness. This was the time of first sleep and second sleep. Imagine, if you will, settling into the warmth of a Viking longhouse as the last light of day fades beyond the frost-covered windows. The great hearth burns steadily at the center of the hall, its flames dancing against the carved wooden beams that stretch like the ribs of some great sleeping beast above your head. The air is thick with the scent of burning birch and oak, mixed with the comforting smell of wool and leather, of herbs hanging in dried bundles from the rafters. The family gathers as evening deepens. Children curl beneath thick furs, their breathing already growing slow and steady. The elders settle onto their sleeping benches, wrapped in layers of woven wool and soft pelts. And as the fire settles to a gentle crackle, as the wind outside whispers its ancient songs through the eaves, the household begins to drift into what they simply knew as the first sleep. This was not the single, unbroken slumber that we imagine today. No, this was something far more natural, far more in tune with the rhythm of the body and the turning of the seasons. The first sleep came easily, like a gentle tide rolling in across the shore of consciousness. It was a deep, restorative rest that lasted for several hours, carrying the sleeper down into the profound darkness where the body could heal and the mind could wander through the realm of dreams. But then, in the deepest part of the night, when the fire had burned down to glowing embers and the cold pressed most insistently against the walls of the longhouse, the first sleep would naturally lift. Not with any jarring awakening, but with the soft, gradual return of awareness that comes when the body has taken what it needs from that initial rest. This was the time between sleeps, the quiet hour, the sacred pause. In our world, waking in the night brings anxiety, a sense that something has gone wrong with our rest. But for the Vikings, for most of the peoples who lived before the coming of electric light, this midnight waking was as natural as the rise and fall of their own breathing. It was a gift, a space of profound stillness in the turning of the night. Picture a Viking woman, perhaps, stirring gently from her first sleep. The longhouse around her is quiet, but for the soft sounds of sleeping breath, and the occasional pop of a settling log. She rises carefully, her feet finding the familiar path to the central hearth without need for light. Her movements are slow, unhurried. There is no schedule to keep, no urgent task waiting for dawn. She kneels beside the fire, adding a few pieces of carefully selected wood. The flames bloom upward, casting warm light across the carved posts and hanging tapestries. The light dances across her face as she settles back, pulling a thick fur around her shoulders. And then she simply sits. She breathes. She allows her mind to drift where it will. This was the time for quiet contemplation, for letting thoughts surface and settle like leaves on still water. Some might use these midnight hours for practical tasks, mending by firelight, checking on the animals, ensuring the fire would last until morning. But just as often, it was a time for something more intangible, a time for the spirit to stretch and wander. Imagine her husband, awakening a few minutes later, drawn by some subtle change in the quality of the darkness. He finds her there by the fire, and without words, he settles beside her. They might speak softly, sharing the dreams that had come in the first sleep, or discussing the gentle concerns of daily life. Their voices would be hushed, respectful of the sacred quality of the hour. Or perhaps they would say nothing at all. Perhaps they would simply sit together in the warm circle of firelight, listening to the wind in the thatch, feeling the deep contentment that comes from being exactly where one belongs. The cold night beyond the walls might be fierce, but here in this pocket of warmth and companionship, time moves differently. Time stretches and softens. This was not insomnia. This was not the restless tossing and turning that comes from minds too full of worry and artificial stimulation. This was a natural awakening, a pause in the rhythm of rest that allowed for a different kind of consciousness, a dreaming wakefulness, a time when the barrier between the conscious and unconscious mind grew thin and permeable. Some nights, the time between sleeps might be spent in what we might call meditation, though they would not have used such a word. The Viking mind, stilled by the first sleep and not yet ready for the second, would often turn inward. Thoughts would arise and pass away like clouds across the night sky. Memories would surface and settle. The events of the day would be processed and integrated without the urgent need for analysis or problem solving. The fire would burn quietly, its light flickering across the wooden walls carved with intricate patterns, serpents and birds, trees and waves, all the symbols that connected the human world to the greater mysteries beyond. In that gentle light, consciousness could drift and explore, following paths that the busy daylight mind might never discover. Sometimes, in the depth of winter, when the night stretched longest and the cold was most bitter, the time between sleeps might extend for an hour or more. There was no hurry, no sense that sleep must be seized and held captive. Sleep, like everything else in the natural world, had its own rhythm, its own wisdom. It came when it came, and departed when its work was done. Picture now a young Viking warrior, awakening from his first sleep to find the longhouse bathed in the silver light of snow-reflected moon. The fire has burned low, but the embers still provide enough warmth to keep the air comfortable. He lies still for a moment, listening to the profound silence that comes only in the deepest winter nights, when the snow muffles all sound and the very air seems to hold its breath. He might rise and walk quietly to the door, stepping out briefly into the crystalline cold. The stars above would be brilliant in the clear air, the familiar constellations wheeling slowly across the dome of night. The snow would crunch softly beneath his bare feet, and his breath would form clouds that dissipate quickly in the dry air. But he would not stay long in the cold. This was not a time for endurance or challenge. This was a time for gentle appreciation, for allowing the beauty of the winter night to settle into his awareness without need for analysis or action. After a few moments, he would return to the warmth of the longhouse, carrying with him the memory of that crystalline beauty. Back inside, he might sit by the fire and simply breathe. The cold air would have awakened his senses, sharpened his awareness, and now the warmth would embrace him like a gentle mother. His thoughts might turn to the coming day, but not with urgency or planning. More like watching distant weather, observing what might be coming without the need to control or direct. This was the gift of the time between sleeps. It was a space outside of time, a pause in the relentless forward motion of days and seasons. It was a time when the Viking spirit could commune with something larger than the immediate concerns of survival and success. Not through any formal practice or ritual, but simply through the act of being present in the quiet darkness. The woman by the fire might find her thoughts drifting to her children, but not with the anxious concerns of daylight parenting. Instead, she might simply rest in the love she feels for them, allowing that love to fill her awareness like warmth from the fire. She might think of her parents, long passed into the next world, and feel their presence as a gentle blessing rather than as a sharp pang of loss. The warrior might find himself remembering a summer day from his childhood, when he had lain in the meadow grass and watched the clouds form and reform above him. The memory would come without effort, arising naturally from the deep well of experience that the first sleep had stirred and loosened. He would not try to hold on to the memory or analyze its meaning. He would simply let it bloom in his consciousness like a flower opening to the sun. This was meditation without doctrine, prayer without formal words. It was the natural turning of the human spirit toward whatever it is that gives life meaning and depth. For some, this might be the gods of the Norse pantheon, Odin the All-Father walking his ravens through the night sky, or Frigg spinning the fates of men and women at her golden wheel. For others, it might be simpler, the presence of the ancestors, the wisdom of the land itself, the deep satisfaction of a life lived in harmony with the natural world. As the time between sleeps stretched on, as the fire burned lower and the cold pressed closer to the walls, there would come a gentle shift in awareness. The body would begin to signal its readiness for the second sleep. Eyelids would grow heavy again. Thoughts would become more dreamlike, less distinct. The boundaries between waking and sleeping would soften. But there would be no urgency to return to sleep, no anxiety about the hours passing. Sleep would come when it came, as naturally as the tide returns to the shore. And when it did come, it would be different from the first sleep. Lighter, perhaps. More filled with dreams and visions. A sleep that would carry the dreamer gently toward the dawning of a new day. The couple by the fire might exchange a few soft words as they feel the second sleep approaching. Simple words of love and contentment. Or they might simply touch hands in the firelight, communicating without speech the deep satisfaction of sharing this quiet time together. Then they would return to their sleeping places, settling back into the furs and woven blankets, carrying with them the peace and clarity that the time between sleeps had brought. The warrior might offer a silent word of gratitude to whatever powers watch over the sleeping household. Not a formal prayer, but simply an acknowledgement of the gift of safety, warmth, and companionship in the midst of the long winter night. Then he too would settle back into his bedding, pulling the furs up to his chin, allowing his eyes to close as the second sleep began to claim him. And in the morning, when the weak winter sun finally struggled above the horizon, they would wake naturally, without the jarring shock of artificial alarms. They would wake refreshed not just in body, but in spirit. The night had done its work. The first sleep had restored their physical energy. The time between sleeps had renewed their connection to the deeper rhythms of life. And the second sleep had prepared them for the challenges and opportunities of a new day. This was the ancient rhythm of rest. Not the frantic chase after 8 hours of unconsciousness that characterizes our modern approach to sleep, but a gentle dance between consciousness and dreams, between solitude and companionship, between the warmth of the hearth and the vast mystery of the winter night. There is something profoundly comforting in imagining this ancient way of being with the night. In our world of constant light and noise, of digital screens and endless stimulation, we have lost touch with the natural rhythms that once guided human rest. We have forgotten that waking in the night is not a problem to be solved, but a gift to be received. The Vikings understood something that we are only beginning to rediscover. They understood that consciousness is not meant to be an on-off switch, flipped between the extremes of busy wakefulness and unconscious sleep. Instead, consciousness is like a river, flowing between different states and qualities of awareness. Sometimes it runs swift and urgent. Sometimes it pools in quiet eddies of contemplation. Sometimes it flows so quietly that it seems almost still, yet it is always moving, always alive. The time between sleeps was one of these quiet pools, a space where consciousness could rest without disappearing entirely, a time when the spirit could drink deeply from the well of silence and emerge refreshed, not just in body but in soul. As we imagine ourselves into this ancient rhythm, we might feel our own breathing slow and deepen. We might feel the tension of our modern urgency beginning to dissolve. There is no schedule to keep in the long winter night of the Viking longhouse. No deadlines to meet, no notifications to answer. There is only the gentle crackle of the fire, the soft sound of sleeping breath, and the vast presence of the night itself. Let yourself settle into this rhythm now. Feel the warmth of the imagined furs around your shoulders. Smell the wood smoke and the dried herbs. Listen to the wind in the thatch and the occasional pop of a settling log. Allow your mind to drift where it will, without judgment or direction. This is your time between sleeps, your moment of sacred pause in the turning of the night. The fire burns low but steady, casting gentle shadows on the carved walls. The cold night beyond seems not threatening, but simply part of the natural order, the necessary darkness that makes the warmth so precious. And you, sitting quietly in this circle of light and safety, are part of that natural order too. You belong here, in this moment, in this pause between the first sleep and the second. Let the ancient rhythm carry you now, as it carried countless generations before us. Let it remind you that rest is not just about the body, but about the spirit. That true restoration comes not just from unconsciousness, but from these quiet moments of gentle awareness, when the soul can stretch and breathe and remember what it means to be alive. The second sleep approaches like a gentle tide, and when it comes, it will carry you softly toward the dawn. But for now, in this precious time between, simply rest in the knowledge that you are held by something larger than yourself. By the warmth of the fire, by the wisdom of the ancestors, by the eternal rhythm that connects all living things in the great dance of rest and renewal. The night is long, and the fire burns steady, and all is well in the quiet sanctuary of sleep. And so we leave our Viking friends as they settle into their second sleep, carried by the ancient rhythm that once guided all human rest. In their gentle breathing, in the soft crackle of the dying fire, we hear an invitation to remember our own connection to these deeper rhythms. To trust in the wisdom of the body, the guidance of the night, and the eternal dance between consciousness and dreams. Herbs, smoke, and dreams. A gentle journey into Viking night rituals. As the evening deepened in the Norse lands, and the last light of day faded beyond the frost-kissed windows of the longhouse, there began a ritual as old as memory itself. A gentle preparation for the journey into sleep, guided by the wisdom of plants and the sacred smoke that would carry prayers and intentions into the realm of dreams. Picture, if you will, the wise woman of the household moving quietly through the settling darkness. Her movements are unhurried, graceful as a prayer made manifest. In her weathered hands, she carries a small wooden bowl, carved with intricate patterns that speak of generations of use, of countless nights when this same ritual brought peace to restless minds and healing to weary bodies. The bowl contains treasures gathered from the summer fields and forests, dried herbs that have been carefully tended, harvested at just the right moment when their power was strongest, then lovingly preserved through the long months of winter. Each plant carries within it the memory of sunlight and rain, of wind through meadows and the patient turning of the seasons. She moves first to the great hearth at the center of the longhouse, where the fire burns low and steady. The flames have settled into the deep, comfortable glow that speaks of warmth lasting through the long night ahead. With gentle reverence, she selects a few glowing embers with iron tongs, placing them carefully in a smaller bronze brazier that will travel with her through the sleeping spaces. The first herb she chooses is mugwort, that ancient ally of dreamers and seers. The dried leaves are silvery green, soft to the touch, and as she sprinkles them over the glowing coals, they release their distinctive scent, earthy and slightly bitter, with undertones that seem to whisper of hidden knowledge and mystic visions. The smoke rises in delicate spirals, carrying with it the promise of dreams that will bring guidance and wisdom. Mugwort, the dream herb, the plant of the moon, and the mysteries. For countless generations, the wise women of the north had known its secrets. How it could open the doorways between the waking world and the realm of sleep. How it could carry the mind safely through the landscape of dreams, protecting the dreamer from nightmares while allowing prophetic visions to unfold like flowers blooming in moonlight. The smoke drifts gently through the longhouse, invisible fingers of healing and protection touching each sleeping place. As it moves, it seems to carry with it the accumulated wisdom of all who have ever used this sacred plant. The knowledge of herb wives and vulvas, of mothers soothing frightened children, of warriors seeking guidance before battle. Next comes juniper, with its sharp, clean scent that speaks of mountain winds and resilient life. The berries and needles crackle softly as they meet the coals, releasing their purifying essence. Juniper, the guardian of thresholds, the cleanser of negative energies. Its smoke spirals upward like incense in a temple, carrying away the day's worries and frustrations, leaving only peace in its wake. The wise woman moves slowly from one sleeping area to another, allowing the gentle smoke to bless each space. She pauses at the bed of a child who has been troubled by nightmares, letting the protective vapors settle around the small form curled beneath thick furs. The juniper smoke seems to form an invisible barrier, a circle of safety that no dark dream can penetrate. At the bed of an elder who has been restless with the aches of age, she allows the mugwort smoke to linger longer, knowing that this herb carries within it the power to ease both physical discomfort and mental agitation. The old man's breathing deepens even as she watches, his features relaxing into the peaceful expression of one who knows that healing dreams are coming. Pine needles join the mixture now, their resinous fragrance adding depth and richness to the sacred smoke. Pine, the tree of endurance and eternal life, carries within its essence the memory of countless winters survived, of strength found in the darkest months. As the needles smolder, they release their gift of resilience, their promise that no matter how long or cold the night may be, morning will always come. The smoke becomes a living thing, a gentle presence moving through the longhouse like a blessing made visible. It curls around the carved posts and beams, settles into the woven tapestries that line the walls, mingles with the scent of wood and wool and leather to create an atmosphere of profound comfort and safety. But the ritual of preparation for sleep involves more than smoke alone. In the warm glow of the firelight, other gentle preparations unfold. A clay pot sits warming near the coals, filled with water that has been heated to the perfect temperature for brewing the evening's tea. The wise woman moves to her collection of herbs, stored in wooden boxes and leather pouches, each one labeled with symbols carved in the old way. She selects chamomile first, those tiny flowers that look like miniature suns. Even dried, they retain their golden color, their sweet, apple-like scent that speaks of summer meadows and peaceful afternoons. As she measures the flowers into a linen straining bag, they release their gentle fragrance, promising the calm sleep that has made this plant beloved for centuries. Valerian root comes next, earthy and strong, a powerful ally for those whose minds race with the concerns of the day. The root has been carefully dried and ground, and though its scent is not as pleasant as the chamomile, its power to bring deep, restorative sleep is unmatched. Just a small amount is needed, for this is potent medicine, a gift from the earth itself. Lavender buds, precious and carefully hoarded from the summer harvest, add their distinctive perfume to the mixture. Lavender, the plant of peace and purification, carries within its purple flowers the essence of tranquility itself. As the hot water is poured over the herbs, the steam that rises seems to carry away all tension, all worry, all the accumulated stress of daily life. The tea steeps slowly, patiently, while the wise woman continues her quiet preparations. She moves to a small table where various salves and oils wait in ceramic pots. Here is bear grease mixed with pine resin, a warming balm for joints stiffened by cold and age. There is a mixture of beeswax and meadowsweet, perfect for soothing the small cuts and scrapes that are part of daily life. And here, most precious of all, is a salve made with herbs gathered under the full moon, a healing balm that carries within it the power of the lunar cycle itself. She warms a small amount of this precious salve between her palms, feeling its texture become smooth and yielding. The scent rises up, a complex blend of healing herbs and beeswax, of moonlight captured in plant form. She applies it gently to her own temples, feeling the immediate sense of relaxation that spreads from the contact point. This is medicine for the soul as much as the body, a reminder that healing comes not just from the plants themselves, but from the intention and care with which they are prepared and applied. The tea is ready now, golden and fragrant, carrying within its warmth all the healing power of the summer herbs. She pours it into wooden cups, the steam rising in the cool air of the longhouse. Each cup is a gift, a blessing, a gentle invitation to let go of the day's concerns and prepare for the healing journey of sleep. As she moves through the longhouse, offering the tea to those who are still awake, there is something deeply sacred about this simple act. This is not just the serving of a beverage, but the sharing of a ritual that connects the living to the wisdom of their ancestors, to the healing power of the natural world, to the ancient knowledge that plants are teachers and allies in the journey toward health and wholeness. The children receive their tea with sleepy gratitude, their small hands wrapped around the warm wooden cups. The herbs work quickly on their young systems, and soon their eyelids are heavy, their breathing deep and regular. But before they sleep, they are told the old stories about the plants that have brought them this peace. How chamomile was beloved by the gods themselves, how valerian grew first in the sacred groves, how lavender carried the blessings of the light elves. The adults sip their tea more slowly, savoring not just the warmth and flavor, but the sense of connection to something larger than themselves. In the drinking of this herbal brew, they participate in a ritual that stretches back through countless generations. They become part of an unbroken chain of wisdom, a tradition that honors both the healing power of plants and the sacred nature of sleep itself. As the night deepens and the tea works its gentle magic, the atmosphere in the longhouse becomes one of profound peace. The herb smoke continues to drift through the air, creating an invisible temple of healing and protection. The fire burns low and steady, its light dancing across faces that are already soft with approaching sleep. And gradually, one by one, the inhabitants of the longhouse begin their journey into the realm of dreams. But for the Norse people, this journey was not simply a passage into unconsciousness. Dreams were sacred things, messages from the gods, glimpses into the future, visits from the spirits of the ancestors. The herbs that had been burned and brewed were not just for physical relaxation. They were keys that could unlock the doors between the worlds, allowing the dreamer to receive the guidance and wisdom that could only come in sleep. In the gentle smoke of mugwort, the mind could travel to distant places, could see events that had not yet come to pass. Warriors might dream of battles to come, seeing in their sleep the strategies that would bring victory. Mothers might dream of their children's futures, receiving guidance about the path each child should take. Farmers might dream of the coming season, learning when to plant and when to harvest. These were not empty fantasies or random neurological events. To the Viking mind, dreams were as real and important as any waking experience. Perhaps more so, for in dreams the barriers between the human and divine worlds grew thin. In dreams, it was possible to speak with Odin himself, to receive counsel from Freya, to walk with the spirits of beloved dead. The wise woman finishes her rounds, ensuring that each sleeping space has been blessed with the protective smoke, that each person has received their healing tea. She returns to the central hearth, where she adds a final pinch of herbs to the glowing coals. This is her own private ritual, her personal prayer for the night ahead. As the smoke rises from this final offering, she speaks softly to the spirits of the plants, thanking them for their gifts. She honors the chamomile for its gentle peace, the valerian for its deep rest, the lavender for its pure tranquility. She acknowledges the mugwort as a teacher and guide, the juniper as a protector, the pine as a source of enduring strength. This is not superstition, but recognition of a truth that modern life has largely forgotten, that we are not separate from the natural world, but part of it, that the plants that grow around us are not just resources to be exploited, but allies and teachers with their own wisdom to share. That healing comes not just from chemical compounds, but from the relationship between human and plant, from the recognition that we are all part of the same living web. She settles into her own sleeping place, pulling the thick furs up to her chin. The herbs she has prepared for others work their magic on her as well. The tea warms her from within, the smoke creates a cocoon of protection around her, the salve on her temples continues to release its healing essence. But more than the physical effects, she feels the deep satisfaction that comes from knowing she has served her community well, that she has used her knowledge to bring peace and healing to those in her care. As she begins to drift towards sleep, her mind turns to the dreams that may come. Will she receive a vision of the coming spring, a glimpse of which herbs will grow most abundantly in the year ahead? Will her grandmother visit her in dreams, sharing some forgotten piece of wisdom about the old ways? Will she travel in spirit to the sacred groves where the most powerful plants grow, learning new secrets to bring back to the waking world? The possibilities are endless, for in the realm of dreams, all things are possible. The herbs she has used create a bridge between the conscious and unconscious mind, allowing for experiences that would be impossible in ordinary waking life. They open doorways to wisdom and healing that can only be accessed in the altered state of dream consciousness. Around her, the longhouse settles into the deep quiet of night. The fire burns low but steady, its light barely illuminating the sleeping forms beneath their furs. The herb smoke continues to drift through the air, invisible but present, carrying its gifts of peace and protection. And gradually, one by one, the dreams begin. A child dreams of flying with ravens, soaring over snow-covered mountains and deep forests, seeing the world from the perspective of Odin's messengers. In the dream, the ravens speak to her in voices like wind through pine boughs, sharing secrets about the hidden paths through the wilderness, the places where healing plants grow in abundance. A young warrior dreams of standing in a vast meadow filled with flowers that glow like stars. Each flower represents a different herb, and as he moves through the meadow, the plants whisper their names and their uses. When he wakes, he will remember this dream and seek out a wise woman to teach him the healing arts, for the gods have shown him a new path to follow. An elder dreams of her mother, long dead, who sits beside her spinning thread that shimmers like moonlight. As she spins, she speaks of the old ways, the ancient knowledge that must not be lost. She tells her daughter where to find the rarest herbs, how to prepare them at the proper times, which words to speak when gathering them. This is not just a dream, but a teaching, a passing of wisdom from one generation to the next. The mother of the household dreams of her children grown and prosperous, each one blessed with health and happiness. In the dream, she sees herself as an old woman, still tending her herb garden, still brewing teas and burning incense for the peace of her family. The dream fills her with deep contentment, for she knows that her work has meaning beyond the immediate moment, that she is part of something larger and more enduring than her individual life. And the wise woman herself dreams of walking in a forest where the trees speak in voices like rustling leaves, where the plants glow with their own inner light, where the spirits of all the herbs she has ever used gather to offer their gratitude. In the dream, she understands that she is not just using the plants, but partnering with them, working together to bring healing and peace to the world. These dreams, born from the marriage of herbal wisdom and spiritual understanding, weave themselves into the fabric of daily life. They become part of the stories that are told by the fire, the knowledge that is passed from parent to child, the wisdom that guides decisions both large and small. They are proof that the boundary between the physical and spiritual worlds is not as solid as it might seem, that healing comes not just from the body but from the soul. As the night reaches its deepest point, as the cold presses closest to the walls of the longhouse, the herbs continue their gentle work. They ease the body into the deep restorative sleep that heals both physical and emotional wounds. They calm the mind so that it can process the events of the day without anxiety or distress. They open the doors of perception so that wisdom can flow from the unconscious mind into conscious awareness. The smoke from the herbs creates an invisible temple around each sleeping form, a sacred space where healing can occur on multiple levels. Within this protective circle, the body can repair itself, the mind can integrate its experiences, and the spirit can receive the guidance it needs for the journey ahead. This is the gift of the old ways, the wisdom that understood that healing is not just about treating symptoms, but about addressing the whole person, body, mind, and spirit. The herbs that grow around us are not just sources of chemical compounds, but teachers and allies in the quest for wholeness. The rituals that surround their use are not just superstition, but recognition of the sacred nature of healing itself. In our modern world, we have largely lost touch with this ancient wisdom. We have forgotten that plants are our partners in healing, that dreams are doorways to wisdom, that the simple act of burning herbs and brewing tea can be a form of prayer. But in the quiet sanctuary of the Viking longhouse, in the gentle rituals of preparation for sleep, we can remember what we have lost and perhaps find our way back to it. The night passes peacefully, wrapped in the protective embrace of herbal wisdom. Dreams come and go like gentle waves, carrying their messages of healing and guidance. The fire burns low but never dies, its steady warmth a promise that even in the darkest night, there is always light. And the herbs continue their patient work, teaching us that true healing comes not from force or urgency, but from patience, wisdom, and deep respect for the natural world. As the first pale light of dawn begins to touch the windows of the longhouse, the sleepers stir gently from their herb-blessed dreams. They wake not with the jarring shock of artificial alarms, but with the natural rhythm of the body that has been properly rested and restored. The herbs have done their work well, carrying each dreamer safely through the night and delivering them refreshed to the threshold of a new day. The wise woman wakes first, as is her habit, moving quietly to rekindle the fire and prepare for the day ahead. But she pauses for a moment to breathe in the lingering scent of the herbs from the night before: chamomile and valerian, mugwort and juniper, lavender and pine. Each scent carries with it the memory of peaceful sleep, of dreams that brought guidance and healing, of another night safely passed in the embrace of ancient wisdom. The embers in the brazier have longed a world without noise, a gentle journey into the sacred silence of ancient sleep. Imagine, if you will, settling into sleep in a world where silence was not the absence of sound, but the presence of peace itself. A world where the night wrapped around you like the softest fur, carrying only the ancient voices of wind and water, wood and flame. This was the world our Viking ancestors knew, a world where silence was not something to be achieved, but something that simply was, as natural and reliable as the turning of the seasons themselves. Close your eyes now, and let us journey together into that profound quiet, that sacred stillness that shaped not just their sleep, but their very souls. Let us discover what it meant to rest in a world where the loudest sounds were those that spoke the language of the earth itself. Picture the longhouse as evening settles over the Norse landscape. The great wooden hall stands solid and secure against the gathering darkness, its thick walls carved from trees that once whispered with the wind in ancient forests. Inside, the central fire burns with a gentle, steady presence, not the harsh glare of artificial light, but the warm, dancing glow that has comforted human hearts since the beginning of time. As the last light fades from the winter sky, as the stars begin their slow wheel across the heavens, the sounds of the day gradually fade away. There are no distant highways humming with the endless flow of traffic. No electrical wires buzzing with the constant transmission of power. No screens flickering with their blue-white urgency, demanding attention at every moment of the day and night. Instead, there is something far more precious, far more healing. There is the deep, abiding quiet that allows the soul to finally exhale, to release the tensions and anxieties that accumulate like dust in the corners of the mind. This is not the dead silence of an empty room, but the living silence of a world in harmony with itself. Listen now to the sounds that filled their night. First, and most constant, is the gentle whisper of the fire. Not the roar of flames consuming fuel with desperate hunger, but the soft conversation between wood and flame, the quiet crackling of birch bark as it curls and glows, the subtle hiss of sap encountering heat. These are sounds that speak directly to something deep in the human heart, sounds that carry the memory of every fire that has ever warmed a human dwelling, every flame that has held back the darkness and made a space for rest and peace. The fire breathes with its own rhythm, settling and stirring in cycles as old as human civilization itself. Sometimes it whispers so softly it seems almost silent. Other times it pops gently, sending a small shower of sparks up the stone chimney, each spark a tiny star completing its brief journey from wood to light to ash. But always, it maintains that fundamental quality of living warmth that no artificial heat can replicate. The sense that this is not just a source of temperature, but a presence, a companion keeping watch through the long hours of night. Beyond the walls of the longhouse, the wind carries its own ancient music. Not the harsh, polluted wind of our industrial age, laden with the sounds and smells of machinery and traffic, but the clean, pure wind that has swept these northern lands since the ice first retreated. In summer, it carries the scent of wildflowers and pine, the sound of grass bending and straightening in the meadows. In winter, it brings the crystalline purity of snow, the sharp clarity of air so cold it seems to ring like a bell. Sometimes the wind is barely a whisper, stirring the thatch of the roof with the gentlest touch, making the smallest sound, like a mother's hand smoothing a child's hair. Other times it speaks more boldly, singing through the eaves with a voice that tells stories of distant mountains and frozen seas, of places where no human foot has ever trod, where the old gods still walk in the forms of storm and frost and aurora. But even when the wind speaks loudest, it never intrudes upon the peace of sleep. Instead, it becomes part of that peace, a lullaby that connects the sleeper to the vast breathing of the world itself. To fall asleep to the sound of wind is to be reminded that we are part of something infinitely larger than ourselves, part of the great cycles of weather and season that govern all life on Earth. When the longhouse stands near running water, a stream or river that flows even in the depths of winter, there is added to this symphony the most soothing sound of all, the gentle murmur of water finding its way through the landscape. Not the rush and roar of a torrential flood, but the patient, persistent whisper of water following the path that gravity and time have carved for it through the earth. This is the sound that speaks most directly to the deepest part of human nature, for we are ourselves mostly water, and something in us recognizes the kinship. The sound of flowing water at night is like hearing the very voice of life itself, the constant, gentle affirmation that existence continues, that the world flows on in its ancient patterns, that all is well in the great order of things. Sometimes, in the depth of winter, the stream might speak differently, perhaps with the occasional tinkle of ice forming at its edges, or the slightly muffled sound of water flowing beneath a layer of snow. But even these variations carry their own comfort, their own assurance that the cycles of the world continue as they always have, that winter is not an ending but a resting, a gathering of strength for the spring to come. Inside the longhouse, the human sounds are equally gentle, equally harmonious with the natural order. There is the soft rustle of someone turning in their sleep, the whisper of furs and woolen blankets adjusting to a new position. The sound of deep, peaceful breathing, not the labored breath of stress and exhaustion, but the slow, rhythmic breathing of bodies truly at rest, minds genuinely at peace. Occasionally, there might be the gentle sigh of someone settling more deeply into sleep, or the soft murmur of a word spoken in dreams. But these sounds, too, are part of the symphony of peace, evidence that the household rests securely in the embrace of the night, that all are safe and all are well. There are no sudden interruptions to shatter this peace. No phones ringing with urgent demands. No notifications chiming with false urgency. No sirens wailing in the distance. No helicopters chopping through the sky. No trains rumbling past with their mechanical rhythm. The silence is allowed to be complete, to wrap around the sleepers like an additional layer of warmth and protection. In this profound quiet, the mind can finally stop its constant vigilance, its perpetual scanning for threats and demands. The nervous system, which in our modern world is kept in a state of constant activation by the endless stream of sensory input, can finally downregulate, can settle into the deep rest that allows true healing and restoration to occur. Think for a moment about your own experience of sleep in the modern world. Even in the quietest bedroom, there are likely sounds that your conscious mind has learned to ignore, but that your sleeping brain continues to process. The hum of appliances, the buzz of electrical equipment, the distant sound of traffic that never completely stops. Even when these sounds don't wake you, they maintain a subtle level of activation in your nervous system, preventing the complete relaxation that the Viking sleeper knew as naturally as breathing. But in the longhouse, as the night deepens and the fire settles to its most gentle whisper, there comes a quality of silence so profound that it seems almost sacred. This is not the oppressive silence of soundproofing or the artificial quiet of technology turned off. This is the living silence of a world at peace with itself, a silence that seems to breathe with its own rhythm, that carries within it all the healing power of the natural world. In this silence, the mind can wander where it will without fear of interruption. Thoughts can arise and dissolve like mist in the morning sun. Memories can surface and settle without the urgent need to categorize or analyze them. The constant stream of mental chatter that characterizes our waking consciousness can finally slow to a gentle trickle, then fade altogether into the vast, peaceful darkness of truly restorative sleep. The woman lying beneath her furs does not need to wonder if she has turned off all her devices, if she has set the alarm for the morning, if she has charged her phone or checked her messages one last time. Her mind, freed from these modern anxieties, can settle into the deep patterns of rest that have sustained human beings for millennia. Her sleep will be governed not by the artificial rhythms of schedules and deadlines, but by the natural cycles of her own body, the ancient wisdom that knows when to rest and when to wake. The warrior resting on his bench does not need to worry about the glowing screens that might disturb his rest, the notifications that might fragment his dreams. His sleep unfolds in long, natural cycles, allowing his body to complete the deep restoration that only comes when the nervous system is allowed to fully relax, when the mind is permitted to journey into the deepest levels of unconsciousness where healing and regeneration occur. As the night reaches its deepest point, when the fire has burned down to the smallest possible flame while still maintaining its warmth, the silence becomes almost palpable. It seems to have weight and texture like the softest wool, like the purest snow. It settles over the longhouse like a blessing, carrying within it all the peace and healing that can only come when the world is allowed to be truly quiet. This is the silence that shaped not just their sleep, but their entire relationship with rest and renewal. Without the constant stimulation of our modern world, their minds could access levels of peace that we can barely imagine. Their dreams could unfold in the deep patterns that bring true psychological healing and spiritual insight. Their bodies could complete the full cycles of restoration that are interrupted by the constant low-level stress of our noise-polluted environment. In this profound quiet, the boundaries between inner and outer experience begin to soften. The sound of the wind outside becomes indistinguishable from the rhythm of breathing within. The gentle crackle of the fire merges with the quiet whisper of blood flowing through resting veins. The sleeper becomes part of the larger symphony of the night, no longer separate from the world around them, but woven into the great tapestry of natural sound and silence. This is what we have lost in our modern world, not just the absence of mechanical noise, but the presence of this living silence, this sacred quiet that allows the soul to truly rest. We have surrounded ourselves with so much stimulation, so much constant input, that we have forgotten what it feels like to be held in the embrace of genuine peace. The Viking child, falling asleep in this cocoon of natural quiet, learns from the very beginning what it means to trust in the safety of silence. Her developing nervous system is not subjected to the constant activation that characterizes modern childhood. Instead, it learns the deep patterns of rest and restoration that will serve her throughout her life. Her dreams, uninterrupted by artificial light and mechanical sound, can follow their natural rhythms, bringing the kind of deep psychological processing that creates emotional resilience and spiritual wisdom. The elder, whose body carries the accumulated wisdom of many years, can rest in a silence that allows every cell to participate in the healing work of sleep. Without the stress of constant stimulation, his body can direct its energy toward repair and regeneration. His mind, freed from the need to filter and process artificial input, can access the deep wells of memory and wisdom that only become available in the most profound states of rest. As dawn approaches, not announced by alarm clocks or morning news programs, but revealed gradually by the gentle lightening of the sky, the silence begins to shift almost imperceptibly. The fire, which has maintained its faithful watch through the night, stirs slightly as the morning air moves through the longhouse. The wind changes subtly, carrying now the promise of the coming day rather than the deep rest of night. But even this transition is gentle, natural, harmonious with the rhythms of the body and the cycles of sleep. There is no jarring interruption, no sudden demand for immediate wakefulness. Instead, consciousness returns gradually, like the slow emergence of stars at twilight, allowing the sleeper to carry forward into the day some of the peace and healing that the night has brought. The silence that has held them through the hours of darkness does not disappear with the dawn. Instead, it settles into their bones, becomes part of their fundamental being. They carry within them the memory of that deep quiet, the knowledge of what it feels like to be truly at peace. This inner silence becomes a refuge they can access even in the busiest moments of daily life, a reminder that beneath all the activity and concern of human existence lies a deeper reality of peace and wholeness. This is perhaps the greatest gift that the ancient world of natural silence offers to our modern understanding. Not just the practical benefits of better sleep and reduced stress, but the deeper wisdom that silence is not empty space to be filled, but sacred space to be honored. That in the absence of artificial noise, we can hear the deeper voices, the voice of our own heart, the voice of the natural world, the voice of whatever we understand to be the source of all life and meaning. In our world of constant connectivity and endless stimulation, we have come to fear silence, to rush to fill it with entertainment and distraction. But the Viking experience of sleep reminds us that silence is not something to be feared or avoided, but something to be welcomed and cherished. It is in silence that we find the deepest rest, the most profound healing, the truest peace. The longhouse sleeps on in its cocoon of natural quiet, protected from the artificial urgencies of a world that has not yet learned to value speed over peace, convenience over wisdom. In this sacred silence, healing occurs not just in individual bodies and minds, but in the very relationship between human consciousness and the natural world. The sleepers rest not as isolated individuals competing for survival, but as part of a larger harmony, a greater symphony of existence that includes the wind and the fire, the flowing water and the wheeling stars. As we imagine ourselves into this ancient silence, we might feel our own nervous systems beginning to relax, our own minds beginning to release the constant vigilance that characterizes modern life. Even in imagination, even for just a few moments, we can taste something of what it means to rest in genuine quiet, to be held in the embrace of a world that values peace above productivity, silence above stimulation. The fire burns low but steady, its gentle light dancing on the carved beams and woven tapestries. The wind whispers its ancient songs through the eaves. The stream, if there is one nearby, continues its patient conversation with the stones and banks that guide its journey. And in this symphony of natural sound and sacred silence, the household rests deeply, completely, trusting in the fundamental goodness of a world that knows how to hold its children safely through the long hours of night. This is the gift that the ancient world offers to our modern struggle with rest and peace. Not a return to the hardships and limitations of earlier times, but a remembering of what we have lost in our rush toward technological convenience. A recognition that some forms of poverty, the poverty of silence, the poverty of darkness, the poverty of natural rhythm, are actually forms of richness that we can barely comprehend from our current vantage point. In the deep quiet of the longhouse, as the night moves toward its conclusion and the first pale light of dawn touches the frost-covered windows, the sleepers rest in a peace so profound that it seems to stop time itself. Here, in this sanctuary of natural silence, They have found something that no amount of modern convenience can replace: the deep, abiding quiet that allows the soul to remember what it means to be truly at home in the world. The silence holds them, cradles them, carries them safely through the darkness toward the light of a new day. And in that holding, in that cradling, in that careful carrying, we glimpse something of what it means to be human in harmony with the natural world, not fighting against the rhythms of day and night, sound and silence, but dancing with them in the ancient steps that lead always toward healing, always toward peace, always toward the deep rest that makes all renewal possible. And so we rest with them in this sacred silence, this living quiet that shaped not just their sleep, but their very souls. In the gentle whisper of wind and flame, in the soft murmur of flowing water, in the profound peace of a world at harmony with itself, we find an invitation to remember what we have lost, and perhaps to reclaim something of the healing silence that is our birthright as children of the natural world. Physical exhaustion and natural routine. A gentle journey into the rhythm of ancient labor and rest. There is a particular kind of tiredness that comes only from honest work, the deep, satisfying exhaustion that settles into muscles and bones like warm honey, that makes every fiber of the body grateful for the soft embrace of sleep. This was the tiredness that Viking people knew each evening as the sun set over their northern lands, a weariness earned through days spent in communion with the earth, the sea, and the endless cycles of survival and creation that shaped their lives. Picture, if you will, the gentle ache of muscles well used, the pleasant heaviness of limbs that have spent the day in purposeful motion. This is not the restless fatigue of our modern world, the jittery exhaustion that comes from stress and overstimulation, the wired tiredness that paradoxically makes sleep elusive. No, this is something far more fundamental, far more healing. The natural tiredness that comes when the body has been used as it was meant to be used, when physical effort and mental peace have worked together in the ancient dance of productive labor. As twilight settles over the Norse settlement, as the last light fades from the western sky, the people make their way home from their day's work with the slow, steady gait of those who have given their best effort to the tasks at hand. There is no rushing, no frantic urgency to squeeze more activity into the remaining hours of daylight. Instead, there is the deep satisfaction that comes from knowing that the day has been well spent, that honest work has been completed, that rest has been truly earned. The farmer walks slowly from his fields, his hands still carrying the scent of rich earth and growing grain. His back aches pleasantly from the day spent bent over furrows, planting the seeds that will sustain his family through the coming winter. His arms carry the gentle soreness that comes from wielding tools with care and precision, the wooden plow that turns the soil, the scythe that cuts the golden grain, the rake that gathers the harvest into neat piles ready for storage. But this is not the painful exhaustion of overwork or the desperate tiredness of those pushed beyond their limits. This is the healthy fatigue of a body that has been challenged within its natural capacity, that has been asked to do what it was designed to do, to move, to lift, to carry, to bend and straighten in the ancient rhythms of agricultural work that connect human beings directly to the source of their sustenance. His feet know every stone and root along the path home, for this is not just any path, but his path, worn smooth by countless journeys between home and field, between rest and labor. The familiarity is deeply comforting, nothing strange or unexpected to navigate, no complex decisions to make. Just the simple, satisfying return to the place where warmth and food and family wait to welcome him. As he walks, his breathing is deep and steady, his heart rate slow and regular. The physical work of the day has been its own form of meditation, requiring presence and attention, but not the anxious hypervigilance of our modern work environments. His mind is quiet, settled, ready for the gentle transition from the productive efforts of day to the restorative embrace of night. Near the water's edge, the fishermen are securing their boats for the evening, their movements careful and practiced despite the tiredness that weighs pleasantly on their shoulders. The day on the water has filled their lungs with clean, salt-scented air, has challenged their bodies with the constant adjustments required to work on the shifting deck of a small boat in the rolling swells of the northern seas. Their hands are rough from handling ropes and nets, their arms heavy from hauling in the day's catch, their legs slightly unsteady from the transition from the moving deck to the solid ground. But there is deep contentment in their tiredness, for they return with fish enough to feed their families, with the satisfaction of having read the signs of weather and water correctly, of having worked in harmony with forces far larger than themselves. The salt air has cleaned their thoughts as surely as it has filled their lungs. Hours spent scanning the horizon, watching for the subtle signs that indicate where fish might be found, have created a meditative state quite different from the scattered attention of our modern lives. Their minds are clear, focused, ready for the simple pleasures of evening: warm food, comfortable clothing, the gentle heat of the fire after a day spent in the embrace of wind and water. In the workshop, the craftsman sets down his tools with the reverence that comes from years of partnership between human hands and wooden implements. His day has been spent shaping wood and metal, creating the objects that make daily life possible: bowls and spoons, knives and tools, the countless small necessities that emerge from patient skill and careful attention to detail. His fingers are stained with the oils and resins of his work, his palms marked with the gentle calluses that come from years of holding chisel and hammer, saw and plane. But these marks are not signs of hardship. They are badges of competence, evidence of skills passed down through generations, of the satisfaction that comes from creating beautiful and useful things with one's own hands. The workshop still holds the scent of wood shavings and leather, of iron heated in the forge, and the various oils used to preserve and protect finished work. These are the smells of creation, of transformation, of raw materials becoming something greater through the application of skill and patience. They cling to his clothing and hair, carrying with him the essence of productive work as he makes his way home. His mind, too, carries the satisfaction of problems solved and challenges met. Each piece he has worked on today has required its own approach, its own consideration of grain and strength, of form and function. This kind of thinking, practical, creative, immediately connected to physical reality, creates a different kind of mental fatigue than the abstract anxieties of modern work. It is a tiredness that brings peace rather than agitation, that makes sleep a welcome friend rather than an elusive stranger. The women of the household have spent their day in the equally demanding work of maintaining the complex web of domestic life that keeps the community functioning. Their hands are warm from kneading bread, their arms pleasantly tired from spinning wool into thread, from weaving thread into the sturdy cloth that will become clothing and blankets and the countless textile necessities of daily life. They have spent hours bent over their work, but this is not the unhealthy posture of those hunched over keyboards and screens. This is movement that varies throughout the day, standing at the loom, sitting at the spinning wheel, kneeling by the fire to tend the cooking, walking between storage areas and work spaces in the constant flow of domestic management. Their day has been filled with the satisfactions of creation and nurture. Bread has risen under their care, transforming simple ingredients into the staff of life through the ancient alchemy of grain and water, yeast and fire. Wool has become thread, thread has become cloth, cloth has become garments that will keep loved ones warm through the harsh northern winter. But perhaps most satisfying of all has been the care of the children, the passing on of skills and knowledge that will ensure the continuation of their way of life. Small hands have learned to hold spindles correctly. Young eyes have watched the intricate process of weaving. Young minds have absorbed the countless small lessons that turn children into competent adults. This teaching, this nurturing, this constant attention to the needs of others creates its own kind of tiredness, not the depleting exhaustion of giving more than one has to give, but the satisfying fatigue that comes from using one's energy in service of something larger and more important than oneself. As evening settles over the settlement, as the various members of the community make their way home from their day's labors, there is a natural convergence, a gentle drawing together of those who have spent the day in separate pursuits, but who share the common bond of honest work and earned rest. The children, too, carry their own pleasant tiredness. Their day has been spent not in the artificial stimulation of screens and structured activities, but in the natural play and learning that comes from being part of a working community. They have helped with age-appropriate tasks, have played games that develop the skills they will need as adults, have run and climbed and explored in the endless physical activity that builds strong bodies and peaceful minds. Their tiredness is the healthy exhaustion of young animals who have used their bodies as nature intended, in constant motion, in exploration and discovery, in the kind of play that is actually preparation for the serious work of adult life. They will sleep deeply and completely, their growing bodies using the night hours for the important work of development and repair. But the tiredness that settles over the Viking household as evening deepens is not just physical. It is also mental and emotional. The satisfying fatigue that comes from a day spent in meaningful work, in connection with family and community, in the ancient rhythms that have sustained human life for countless generations. Their minds are not scattered and fragmented by the constant switching between unrelated tasks that characterizes modern work. Instead, they carry the focused calm that comes from spending sustained periods of time on single activities, from seeing projects through from beginning to end, from working with their hands as much as their minds. There has been time for contemplation during the day, not the anxious rumination of modern life, but the peaceful reflection that comes naturally during repetitive physical tasks. While hands have been busy with familiar work, minds have been free to wander, to process the events of previous days, to plan gently for the future, to rest in the simple satisfaction of the present moment. The social fabric of their day has also contributed to the quality of their tiredness. Work has been done in company, with conversation and laughter, with the sharing of stories and knowledge that binds the community together. There has been singing during the repetitive tasks, old songs that carry the wisdom and history of their people, simple melodies that make work lighter and more pleasant. This social dimension of work creates a different kind of mental state than the isolation that often characterizes modern labor. Instead of the loneliness and competition that can make work stressful and depleting, there has been cooperation and companionship, the sense of being part of something larger and more enduring than individual effort. As the family gathers around the evening fire, as the day's work gives way to the gentle pleasures of evening, there is a natural shift in the quality of their tiredness. The active fatigue of labor transforms gradually into the receptive tiredness that prepares for sleep. Bodies that have been engaged in purposeful motion throughout the day begin to slow and settle, like rivers approaching the sea. The transition is not abrupt or jarring. There is no sudden shift from high activity to forced stillness. Instead, the evening hours provide a gentle bridge between the energy of day and the rest of night. Tasks become smaller, more meditative. The mending of clothes, the carving of small wooden objects, the quiet preparation for tomorrow's work. Conversation flows naturally around the fire, but it is not the urgent talk of those trying to squeeze communication into brief breaks from busy schedules. It is the leisurely sharing of thoughts and experiences that comes when there is time and space for real connection, when the mind is calm enough to truly listen and the heart is open enough to truly receive. Stories are told, not the frantic entertainment of those desperately seeking distraction from stress, but the traditional tales that carry meaning and wisdom, that connect the present generation to their ancestors and their descendants. These stories become part of the transition to sleep, their familiar rhythms and ancient wisdom preparing the mind for the deeper journeys of dreams. The physical tiredness in their bodies is now joined by a mental quieting, a natural slowing of thought and worry that comes when the day has been well spent and the evening is peaceful. There is no anxiety about unfinished work or unmet obligations. The day's tasks have been completed to the best of their ability, and tomorrow's challenges will be met when tomorrow comes. As the fire burns lower and the time for sleep approaches, the tiredness becomes something almost sacred, a gift earned through honest effort, a blessing that will transform through the night into renewed energy and strength. This is not exhaustion to be feared or fought, but weariness to be welcomed and embraced. The bodies that settle into their sleeping places carry the pleasant ache of muscles that have been used well, the satisfied heaviness of limbs that have spent the day in purposeful motion. But they also carry something more, the deep contentment that comes from living in harmony with the natural rhythms of work and rest, effort and renewal, giving and receiving. The farmer's hands, still scented with earth, rest peacefully on the fur covers. The calluses on his palms are not sources of discomfort, but reminders of competence, of the satisfaction that comes from working directly with the source of life. His breathing is deep and regular, his heart rate slow and steady, his entire being ready for the restorative work of sleep. The fisherman's body still carries the subtle motion of the sea, a gentle rocking that will ease his transition into dreams. The salt air that has filled his lungs throughout the day continues to work its cleansing magic, purifying not just his physical system, but his thoughts and emotions as well. He sleeps with the satisfaction of one who has worked in partnership with forces larger than himself and found his place in the vast patterns of nature. The craftsman's fingers, relaxed now after their day of precise motion, curl naturally as if still holding the familiar tools of his trade. His mind, cleared by hours of focused concentration on immediate, practical problems, is ready for the different kind of work that happens in sleep. The integration of experience, the processing of memory, the quiet preparation for tomorrow's challenges. The women of the household settle into sleep with the deep satisfaction of nurturers and creators. Their bodies carry the pleasant tiredness of hands that have shaped and tended, arms that have embraced and comforted, backs that have bent in service of family and community. But more than physical fatigue, They carry the emotional contentment that comes from spending the day in meaningful care of others. The children slip into sleep like small animals returning to their burrows, naturally, completely, without the resistance or anxiety that often characterizes modern bedtimes. Their bodies are tired in the best possible way, exercised and challenged, but not overstimulated, ready for the important work of growth and development that happens most efficiently during deep sleep. This natural tiredness creates the perfect conditions for the kind of sleep that truly restores and renews. Bodies that have been challenged within their natural capacity respond to rest by rebuilding and strengthening. Minds that have been engaged in purposeful, meaningful work process the day's experiences efficiently and completely. There is no need for artificial aids to sleep, no requirement for elaborate routines or expensive technologies. The tiredness earned through honest work is its own sleeping potion, more effective than any pharmaceutical intervention, more powerful than any manufactured solution. The nervous systems that settle into rest are not jangled by artificial stimulation or twisted by abstract anxieties. They are naturally regulated by the rhythm of meaningful work and earned rest, by the ancient pattern of effort and renewal that has sustained human life since the beginning of our species. In this natural tiredness, in this honest exhaustion, there is a kind of prayer, a wordless gratitude for bodies capable of work, for minds able to solve problems, for hands skilled enough to create and care. The sleep that comes from such tiredness is itself a form of worship, a recognition of the sacred nature of the cycles that govern all life. As the night deepens around the sleeping household, as the fire burns down to its most gentle glow, the rest that enfolds them is profound and complete. This is not the fitful sleep of those whose bodies are tired, but whose minds remain active, not the shallow rest of those whose physical needs have been met, but whose deeper hungers remain unsatisfied. This is the sleep of those who have spent their day well, who have used their energy in service of life and community, who have earned their rest through honest effort and meaningful work. It is sleep that restores not just the body but the spirit, that prepares not just for tomorrow's tasks but for a lifetime of purposeful engagement with the world. The cycles of work and rest, effort and renewal, giving and receiving that have shaped their day will continue to shape their sleep. Dreams will come that process and integrate the day's experiences. The body will use the night hours for repair and strengthening. The mind will organize and store the day's learning, preparing for new challenges and opportunities. But more than these individual benefits, their sleep participates in the larger rhythms that connect all life. The cycles of season and weather, the patterns of growth and harvest, the eternal dance between effort and rest that sustains not just individual beings but entire communities, entire ecosystems, the very web of life itself. In the morning, they will wake naturally, refreshed not just in body but in spirit, ready to begin again the ancient cycle of meaningful work and earned rest. The tiredness of the previous day will be transformed through sleep into new energy, new strength, new readiness to engage with whatever challenges and opportunities the day may bring. This is the gift of natural tiredness, of honest exhaustion, of weariness earned through purposeful effort. It transforms sleep from a mere necessity into a sacred practice, from a time of unconsciousness into a time of deep restoration and renewal. It connects the individual to the larger patterns of existence, making each person part of the eternal rhythm that sustains all life. And so we rest with them in this earned tiredness, this honest exhaustion that comes from days spent in meaningful work and nights welcomed as friends. In the gentle ache of well-used muscles, in the satisfied quieting of minds that have been purposefully engaged, we find an invitation to remember what it means to live in harmony with the natural rhythms of effort and rest, work and renewal, giving and receiving that makes sleep not just restoration but celebration. The symbolism of sleep in Norse belief, a gentle journey into Viking dreams and sacred rest. In the quiet depths of a Norse winter evening, when the last embers of the hearth cast their golden glow across carved wooden walls, sleep was never merely an end to the day's labors. For the Vikings, those seafaring wanderers of the northern realms, sleep held mysteries as deep as the fjords that carved their homeland, as sacred as the ancient trees that whispered secrets in the wind. Picture, if you will, a longhouse nestled beneath a blanket of pristine snow. The thick timber walls, hewn from centuries-old pines, cradle the warmth within like gentle hands cupping precious light. Outside, the aurora borealis dances across the star-drunk sky, painting the world in ethereal greens and blues that seem to pulse with the very breath of the gods themselves. But inside, wrapped in the softest fox furs and wool woven with patterns passed down through generations, the Norse people prepared for a journey far more profound than any their longships might carry them upon. Sleep, to these hardy souls, was a sacred threshold, a doorway between the world of waking concerns and the realm where gods walked freely, where ancestors whispered wisdom through the veil of dreams, and where the great tapestry of fate revealed its hidden threads. As the firelight flickered lower, casting dancing shadows that seemed to move with purpose across the room, each person settling into their sleeping furs understood that they were about to embark upon a voyage more mystical than any across the Whale Road. The very act of closing one's eyes became a ritual of surrender, not to mere unconsciousness, but to the flowing currents of the cosmos itself. In the Norse understanding of existence, sleep was the gentle tide that carried mortal souls to shores where time moved differently, where the boundaries between past, present, and future dissolved like morning mist over a still lake. Listen closely to the rhythm of breathing that fills the longhouse now, slow and deep, like the eternal pulse of the sea against rocky shores. Each exhale releases the day's worries into the smoky air, where they dissolve and drift away through the gaps in the roof beams, carried skyward to be transformed by the night wind. Each inhale draws in something far more precious than mere air. It draws in the possibility of communion with forces greater than the mortal realm. For the Vikings understood that dreams were not random fragments of memory and imagination, dancing chaotically through sleeping minds. No, dreams were messages, threads of communication woven by the Norns themselves, those three wise sisters who sat at the base of Yggdrasil, the world tree, spinning the threads of fate for gods and mortals alike. As sleep deepened and the boundaries of consciousness grew soft and permeable, the dreamer became a vessel for wisdom that flowed from the very source of all knowing. The eldest grandmother in the longhouse, her silver hair gleaming like moonlight on snow, has always known this truth. She remembers the stories told by her own grandmother, who learned them from hers, in an unbroken chain of wisdom stretching back through the mists of time. She knows that when sleep claims her tonight, she may find herself walking in the hall of her ancestors, their faces familiar yet transformed by the otherworldly light that illuminates all things in the realm of dreams. Picture her now, settling deeper into her bed of straw and furs, feeling the weight of warm wool blankets as they create a cocoon of comfort around her weathered but still strong form. The scent of pine resin from the burning logs mingles with the lingering aroma of the evening's meal. Barley bread baked on the hearthstone, dried fish seasoned with herbs gathered from summer meadows, and ale brewed with honey that once knew the touch of wild flowers. As her breathing slows and deepens, matching the ancient rhythm that has lulled countless generations to sleep, she feels herself beginning to drift, not away from life, but deeper into its most essential mysteries. The line between her physical form and the vast web of existence begins to blur, like watercolors bleeding gently into one another on wet parchment. In this state of sacred transition, the Norse believed, the soul could slip its earthly moorings and travel the 9 realms that make up the cosmos. It could soar through Asgard, where the gods hold council and feast in golden halls. It could wander through Alfheim, where the light elves dance in perpetual twilight, their movements as graceful as wind through wheat fields. It could even brave the shadowy paths of Helheim, where wisdom dwells in the most unexpected corners, and where ancestors wait with patient love to share their hard-won understanding. The young warrior who lies nearest to the door, his hand resting even in sleep near the hilt of his sword, may find himself this night standing in the presence of Odin himself. The All-Father, who traded his eye for wisdom and hung himself from the world tree to learn the secrets of the runes, understands the value of knowledge gained through sacrifice and stillness. In dreams, he might appear not as the fierce battle god of legend, but as a wanderer wrapped in a blue cloak, his remaining eye holding depths of compassion that make the dreamer feel suddenly understood, completely known. What you seek, the dream Odin might whisper without words, his voice like wind through ancient branches, lies not in the clash of weapons or the accumulation of gold, but in the spaces between heartbeats, in the pause between one breath and the next. Such wisdom, received in the vulnerable openness of sleep, could transform a life more surely than any battle won or treasure claimed. The mother who sleeps with her children close beside her, their small forms warm and trusting against her side, might find her dreams filled with the presence of Frigg, Odin's wife and the goddess of domestic wisdom. In the realm of sleep, Frigg appears not as a distant deity, but as an older sister, a wise aunt, a beloved grandmother. Her touch is as gentle as wool fresh from the loom, her voice as soothing as the sound of spinning wheels turning in the long winter evenings. Through dreams, Frigg might share the deeper mysteries of nurturing, how love given freely returns tenfold, how patience planted in difficult soil blooms into wisdom, how the act of caring for others creates invisible threads that bind souls together across time and space. The dreaming mother might find herself standing in a vast hall where all mothers throughout history gather to share their stories, their struggles, their quiet triumphs. In this sacred space, she understands that her daily labors of love are part of something far grander than she had ever imagined. The craftsman whose hands shape wood and metal by day might dream of standing before the dwarven smiths of Svartalfheim, those master workers who forged Thor's hammer and Odin's spear. In sleep, his soul could learn techniques that no waking teacher could impart. How to sense the hidden nature of materials, how to work with the grain of wood as if it were a living partner, how to coax metal into forms that seem to capture light itself. Such dreams were not mere fantasy to the Norse mind. They were understood as genuine instruction, wisdom transmitted from the realm of archetypal knowledge into the receptive consciousness of the sleeping craftsman. Upon waking, he might find his hands moving with new sureness, his eyes seeing possibilities in raw materials that had been invisible before. The community would recognize such change not as coincidence, but as evidence of the sacred communication that occurs when souls open themselves to the teaching presence of sleep. Even the children, curled like small animals in their nest of furs, were believed to receive their own form of dream wisdom. Their sleeping minds, still close to the mystery of their origins, might commune with the spirits of unborn generations, future children who exist in potential, waiting their turn to enter the world of form and time. These dream children might share games that have never been played, songs that have never been sung, stories that bridge the gap between what is and what might yet be. The sound of breathing deepens now throughout the longhouse, creating a symphony of rest that seems to harmonize with the crackling of the fire and the distant sighing of wind through the eaves. Each sleeper has become a note in a vast composition, their dreams weaving together into a tapestry of shared meaning that extends far beyond the boundaries of their individual consciousness. For the Vikings understood that sleep was not a solitary journey, but a communal experience that bound the tribe together in ways that waking life could never achieve. In dreams, the barriers between self and other grew thin. The wisdom received by one dreamer could mysteriously appear in the thoughts of another. The healing experienced in one person's dream visit to sacred springs might manifest as physical wellness in a neighbor's body. The community of sleepers became a single organism, breathing with one breath, dreaming with one vast and compassionate mind. This interconnectedness extended beyond the living to embrace the dead as well. The ancestors were not gone in the Norse understanding. They had simply crossed over into a realm where their wisdom could flow more freely, unencumbered by the limitations of physical form. In sleep, the living could commune with these wise ones, receiving guidance that helped them navigate the complexities of earthly existence. Imagine an old sea captain, his beard white as foam on breaking waves, settling into sleep with the weight of difficult decisions pressing upon his heart. Should he attempt one more voyage before winter's grip grows too strong? Can he trust the new crew members who have joined his ship? Is it time to pass on the knowledge of secret routes and safe harbors to the next generation? As sleep claims him, he might find himself standing on the deck of a ship that sails not upon water, but upon seas of light and shadow. At the helm stands his own grandfather, dead these 20 years but alive with the vitality that belongs to those who have passed beyond the constraints of mortal flesh. Without words, but with a communication deeper than speech, the ancestor captain shares his wisdom, not as commands to be obeyed, but as perspectives to be considered, possibilities to be weighed with the wisdom of one who has walked similar paths. The sea, the grandfather's presence might convey, teaches us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to sail forth despite the storm clouds on the horizon. Trust your heart's compass, grandson, for it has been calibrated by generations of navigators who face similar choices. Such dream counsel was treasured by the Norse people, recorded in memory with the same reverence they accorded the most precious family heirlooms. A single night's dream might provide guidance that shaped years of decisions, influencing not only the dreamer, but all those whose lives intertwined with theirs. The young maiden who will soon be wed might dream of her own future daughters, seeing in sleep the faces of children not yet conceived. These dream daughters might appear as wise women, aged beyond their years, offering counsel about the art of marriage, the mystery of motherhood, the delicate balance between strength and yielding that creates harmony in the home. Remember, their voices might whisper like wind through summer grass, that love is not a possession to be grasped, but a garden to be tended. What you plant with patience will bloom in its proper season. The farmer whose fields lie fallow beneath the snow might find his dreams filled with visions of spring. Not the spring that is to come in a few months' time, but the eternal spring that exists beyond the cycle of seasons, the source from which all renewal flows. In this realm of archetypal seasons, he might commune with the spirits of grain and growth, learning secrets of cultivation that go beyond the turning of soil and the planting of seeds. He might understand, through dream revelation, that the true harvest is not the grain stored in his barns, but the patience cultivated in his heart during the long waiting times. The real fertility is not in his fields, but in his willingness to work in partnership with forces greater than his individual will. Such understanding, gained in the receptive vulnerability of sleep, could transform his approach to farming from mere labor into sacred collaboration with the living earth. The sound of the fire settles into a gentler rhythm now, the logs having burned down to glowing coals that cast a steadier, more subdued light. The shadows on the walls have grown longer and softer, like gentle guardians watching over the sleeping household. Outside, the snow continues to fall in fat, lazy flakes that catch the starlight and hold it briefly before settling into the growing drifts that will soon cover the world in pristine silence. In this deepening quiet, the boundary between the longhouse and the larger world begins to blur. The sleeper's dreams expand beyond the wooden walls to embrace the entire landscape. The sleeping forests where bears dream of honey and salmon streams. The frozen lakes where pike rest in the depths beneath ice that rings like distant bells when the wind crosses it. The mountains where eagles roost with their heads tucked beneath wings that have known the touch of clouds. The Norse understanding of sleep embraced this sense of cosmic interconnection. They believed that in dreams, human consciousness could expand to touch the sleeping awareness of all living things. That in the deepest stages of rest, the dreamer could experience what it felt like to be a tree extending roots deep into the earth while reaching branches toward the stars, or a stone worn smooth by countless seasons of rain and sun, holding within its silence the memory of ages beyond human reckoning. Such dreams were not seen as mere fancy, but as genuine communication with the vast intelligence that animates all existence. The dreamer who experienced being a wolf running through moonlit forests returned to waking life with a deeper understanding of wildness, of the fierce loyalty that binds pack members together, of the patient intelligence required to survive in harsh landscapes. The one who dreamed of being a migrating bird carried back knowledge of the magnetic currents that guide long journeys, the trust required to follow invisible pathways across vast distances. This expansion of consciousness through dream was understood as a form of preparation, training for the ultimate journey that every soul must eventually undertake. For the Norse believed that death itself was not an ending, but a transition into a realm where the skills developed in dream travel would prove essential. Those who had learned to navigate the subtle realms in sleep would find themselves better prepared for the great adventure that awaited beyond the threshold of mortal life. The berserker who had known the fierce joy of battle might dream of laying down his weapons, not in defeat, but in the recognition that the greatest victories are won in the depths of the heart. In sleep, he could experience the peace that surpasses all understanding, the stillness at the center of the storm that allows warriors to fight without hatred, to face death without fear. Such dreams might transform a mere fighter into a true protector, someone who understands that strength's highest purpose is the safeguarding of what is tender and precious. The skald, the storyteller whose words weave magic around the evening fire, might find in dreams that she sits at the feet of the ancient ones, the first singers who learned their art directly from the gods themselves. In the realm of sleep, she could drink from the well of inspiration that never runs dry, learning songs that have never been sung in the waking world, stories that bridge the gap between myth and lived experience. These dream songs, when brought back to waking consciousness, had the power to heal old wounds, to kindle hope in despairing hearts, to weave communities together with threads of shared meaning. The skald understood that her art was not mere entertainment, but a sacred responsibility. She was a vessel through which the wisdom of the dream realm flowed into the everyday world, enriching the lives of all who heard her tales. The healing woman, she whose knowledge of herbs and remedies kept the community healthy through the long winter months, might dream of walking in gardens that existed beyond the reach of frost and snow. In these eternal gardens, every plant that had ever grown or ever would grow flourished in perfect conditions, their healing properties visible as auras of colored light that surrounded each leaf and flower. In such dreams, she could learn not just which plants to use for which ailments, but how to read the subtle energies that surround all living things, how to sense imbalance before it manifests as illness, how to work with the body's natural wisdom to restore harmony and health. The medicines she prepared after such dreams were infused with more than just the properties of their physical ingredients. They carried the blessing of deeper understanding, the healing power of compassion informed by wisdom. As the night deepens and the dreams grow richer, the longhouse itself seems to breathe with the rhythm of sleep. The wooden beams expand and contract gently with the changing temperature, creating soft sounds like distant music. The stones of the hearth hold their warmth like faithful guardians, radiating comfort through the long hours of darkness. Even the household animals, the cats curled in warm corners, the dogs stretched beside the dying fire, contribute their own dreams to the collective tapestry of rest. The Norse believed that animals, too, served as messengers in the realm of sleep. The house cat, padding silently through dreams on velvet paws, might carry wisdom about patience and independence, about the art of being present without being possessive. The loyal hound, running through dream forests with joy uncontained, might bring understanding of faithful love, of the fierce protectiveness that asks nothing in return but the chance to serve those it cherishes. Even the ravens that roost in the eaves outside were understood to be active participants in the night's dreaming. These black-winged messengers of Odin were believed to carry news between the worlds, and their presence near the longhouse was seen as a blessing, a sign that the household slept under divine protection, that their dreams would be meaningful and their rest truly restorative. The sound of raven calls in dreams was particularly significant, for these wise birds were thought to speak in the ancient language that predates human speech, the original tongue in which all truth is expressed. A dreamer who learned to understand raven speech might wake with knowledge that could not be put into words, but which would guide their actions with unfailing wisdom. The gentle rhythm of snowfall against the roof adds its own voice to the symphony of the sleeping longhouse. Each flake carries with it the silence of high clouds, the patience of winter, the promise of spring's eventual return. The Norse understood snow as a form of blessing, not just the moisture that would nourish next year's crops, but a blanket of peace that covered the world, creating the deep quiet necessary for the most profound forms of dreaming. In the depths of winter sleep, when the night stretched longest and the sun barely cleared the horizon during its brief daily journey, the Norse people experienced their most vivid and meaningful dreams. This was the season when the veil between worlds grew thinnest, when the ancestors drew closest to the living, when the gods themselves were most likely to walk through human dreams. The child who dreams on such a night might find herself standing in a vast library where all the stories that have ever been or ever will be are written in books of light. The wise librarian who tends this collection might be her own future self, aged and wise, or perhaps the spirit of all children who have ever loved stories. With gentle hands, this guardian might show her books whose pages turn themselves, revealing tales that teach without preaching, that heal wounds the dreamer didn't know she carried. Every story, the dream librarian might whisper, is a doorway to understanding. Every tale you hear becomes part of who you are, shaping the story you will tell with your own life. Such dream guidance could influence a child's path for years to come, nurturing a love of wisdom that would serve not only herself, but all those whose lives she would touch. The merchant who travels far from home might dream of returning to a village that never was but always is, a place where every person he has ever loved waits with open arms, where every mistake he has ever made is forgiven before the asking, where every dream he has ever harbored finds its perfect fulfillment. This is not escapism, but a glimpse of the eternal home that exists within every heart, the place of belonging that no external circumstance can destroy. Such dreams served as spiritual anchors for those whose lives required long absences from family and familiar places. They provided inner stability that no storm could shake, inner wealth that no thief could steal. The merchant who carried such dream treasures in his heart could face any hardship with equanimity, knowing that his true home was always with him. The woman whose husband sails the whale road might dream of standing on a cliff overlooking all the seas of the world, her vision so clear that she can see every ship that has ever sailed, every sailor who has ever faced the challenges of wind and wave. In this expanded sight, she perceives her beloved's vessel as a point of light moving safely across dark waters, surrounded by protective forces that make her fear give way to trust. Love, her dream understanding might reveal, is not diminished by distance, but refined by it. What you send forth in blessing returns to you transformed into strength. Such revelation could sustain her through the longest separations, transforming anxiety into a form of spiritual practice. The fire has settled now into a bed of glowing coals, each ember like a tiny star that has descended from the night sky to warm this small human shelter. The heat radiates outward in invisible waves, creating currents of comfort that flow around and through the sleeping forms, carrying with them not just physical warmth, but something more precious. The warmth of belonging, of being held safe by forces greater than individual will or worry. In this deep hour of the night, when sleep has claimed every inhabitant of the longhouse, the dreams begin to weave together into a collective vision that embraces the entire community. The grandmother's wisdom dreams flow into the warrior's courage dreams, which blend with the mother's love dreams, which merge with the craftsman's creation dreams, until the boundaries between individual consciousness fade away and something larger emerges. This collective dreaming was understood by the Norse as one of the most sacred functions of community life. When people slept together in the same dwelling, sharing breath and warmth and the invisible emanations of their sleeping minds, they created a vessel capable of receiving wisdom too vast for any single consciousness to contain. The longhouse became a crucible of transformation, where individual dreams were refined and amplified into collective understanding. In such communal dreams, the whole community might find itself standing together in the great hall of the gods, welcomed as honored guests at a feast where the food is pure wisdom and the drink is liquid understanding. At such a gathering, the artificial divisions between young and old, male and female, warrior and craftsman, dissolve into recognition of the fundamental unity that underlies all apparent differences. You are all threads in the same tapestry, the collective dream might reveal. Each necessary, each beautiful, each contributing something unique to the pattern that could not exist without your particular color and texture. Such understanding, shared in the vulnerability of sleep, could heal old wounds, resolve long-standing conflicts, and bind the community together with bonds stronger than blood. The dreams deepen further as the night progresses, carrying the sleepers beyond the merely personal into realms where individual identity becomes transparent to universal truth. Here, in the deepest places of rest, the Norse soul could commune directly with the Norns themselves, those three sisters who sit at the base of the world tree, weaving the threads of fate for all beings throughout the 9 realms. Urd, who represents the past, might appear in dreams as an ancient woman whose eyes hold the memory of all that has ever been. Her presence brings understanding of how the past lives on in the present, how the choices of ancestors continue to influence the lives of their descendants, how healing old wounds can free energy that has been locked in repetitive patterns for generations. Verdandi, who embodies the present moment, might manifest as a woman in the prime of life, her hands busy with the immediate work of weaving. Through her, the dreamer learns the art of presence, how to be fully alive to the current moment without being trapped by it, how to engage wholeheartedly with immediate tasks while remaining open to the larger patterns of which they are part. Skuld, who governs the future, might appear as a young woman whose face is both familiar and mysterious, known yet not yet revealed. Her presence brings not specific prophecies, but a deepened capacity to sense the potentials that lie waiting in each present choice, the understanding that the future is not fixed but fluid, responsive to the quality of awareness and intention brought to each moment. To dream of the Norns was considered one of the greatest possible blessings, for their wisdom went beyond human concerns to touch the very foundations of existence. A dreamer who received such a vision would wake with a sense of profound peace, knowing that their life was part of a pattern so vast and beautiful that even its difficult passages served some greater purpose. The sound of breathing in the longhouse has grown so quiet now that it blends with the whisper of snow against the walls, the settling of coals in the hearth, the distant call of an owl hunting in the moonlit forest. Each person sleeps deeply, their dreams carrying them through landscapes of wonder and wisdom that will be remembered not in specific detail, but as a lingering sense of having touched something infinitely precious. The young apprentice craftsman might dream of standing before a forge where not metal, but pure possibility is shaped by the hammer blows of focused intention. The master smith in this dream forge might be one of the dwarven artificers of legend, or perhaps his own future self, aged and wise in the ways of creation. Through wordless instruction, he learns that the greatest craft lies not in the manipulation of materials, but in the cultivation of the consciousness that shapes them. Every tool is an extension of the heart that wields it, the dream teaching might convey. Every creation carries within it the quality of awareness from which it springs. Work with reverence, and your hands will produce not just objects, but blessings. The maiden who tends the household animals might find herself in a dream forest, where she can understand the speech of all living creatures. The horses share their wisdom about the balance between strength and gentleness. The cattle speak of the patient contentment that comes from accepting what each day provides. The chickens chatter about the joy to be found in simple, daily duties performed with complete attention. Through such communion with animal wisdom, she learns that intelligence takes many forms, that every creature has something valuable to teach those humble enough to listen. This understanding might transform her care of the animals from mere duty into sacred service, recognizing in each beast a fellow traveler on the great journey of existence. The old storyteller, her voice stilled now in sleep, but her mind alive with narrative possibilities, might dream of sitting beside the well of memory where all stories originate. Here, she can see how every tale that has ever been told is connected to every other, how the great themes of courage, love, sacrifice, and redemption weave through all human experience like golden threads through a vast tapestry. In this dream well, she might glimpse stories not yet ready to be born, tales that will be needed by future generations facing challenges not yet imagined. She becomes a guardian of these unborn stories, holding them safe in her heart until the time comes for their telling. Upon waking, she might find her mind filled with new tales that seem to tell themselves, stories that carry exactly the medicine needed by her community's current circumstances. The fisher who knows every stream and lake in the region might dream of standing beside waters that exist beyond geography, the eternal waters from which all earthly streams flow and to which they eventually return. In these archetypal waters, every fish that has ever swum continues to live in perfect freedom, and the dream fisher understands that the true catch is not the fish themselves, but the patience and skill and communion with nature that the act of fishing cultivates. The sea captain dreams of navigating by stars that spell out words of guidance across the night sky. The constellations rearrange themselves into messages of encouragement and warning, helping him understand not just how to guide his ship through dangerous waters, but how to navigate the more subtle challenges of leadership and responsibility. In his dream, the stars whisper that true authority comes not from the power to command others, but from the wisdom to command oneself. The healer dreams of a vast pharmacy where every plant that has ever grown offers its gifts freely, where the properties of each herb are visible as streams of colored light, where the art of healing is revealed not as the conquest of disease, but as the restoration of harmony between body, mind, and spirit. In this dream pharmacy, she learns to see illness not as an enemy to be defeated, but as a message to be understood, a call for attention to some aspect of life that has fallen out of balance. The blacksmith dreams of forging not tools of war, but instruments of peace, plowshares that turn soil with reverence for the earth, bells that call communities together in celebration, wind chimes that transform the chaotic sounds of daily life into harmonious music. His dream forge is tended not by earthly fire, but by the flame of inspiration that burns without consuming, that gives light without casting shadows. As these gentler dreams flow through the sleeping household, the quality of rest becomes even more profound. The harsh edges of daily concerns have been worn smooth by the flowing waters of sleep, leaving behind only what is essential, only what serves the deeper purposes of growth and understanding. The child who feared the coming winter now dreams of snow as a blanket of stars that have fallen to earth to keep all living things warm and safe. In her dream, she can hear the heartbeat of the earth itself, slow and steady beneath the frozen surface, reminding her that life continues even in the darkest seasons, that spring is not a distant possibility, but a promise held within winter's very heart. The farmer who worried about his stored grain dreams of vast underground chambers where the earth itself serves as granary, keeping safe not just the seeds of crops, but the seeds of all possibilities, all hopes, all dreams that have been planted in faith and trust. He understands in sleep what his waking mind struggled to accept, that true security comes not from hoarding, but from participation in the great cycles of giving and receiving that sustain all life. The mother who feared for her family's safety dreams of weaving a cloak of protection from threads made of all the prayers ever spoken by mothers throughout time. This dream cloak is invisible to ordinary sight, but stronger than any armor, woven from the concentrated love and intention of countless women who have shared her concerns across the ages. Wearing this cloak in her dream, she feels held and supported by a sisterhood that transcends the boundaries of time and space. Such dreams work their gentle magic through the long hours of darkness, gradually transforming fear into trust, anxiety into peace, isolation into connection. The Norse understood that this transformative power of sleep was not accidental but purposeful, that consciousness naturally seeks its highest expression when freed from the limitations of waking preoccupations. The sound of breathing in the longhouse has become so subtle that it seems to merge with the pulse of life itself. The heartbeat that moves in the sap of trees, the rhythm that carries migrating birds across vast distances, the tide that flows in the blood of all living creatures. Each person has become a note in a vast symphony of existence, their individual dreams contributing to a harmony that encompasses the entire cosmos. In this deep communion, the boundary between dreamer and dream dissolves entirely. The grandmother becomes the wisdom she receives, the warrior becomes the courage he discovers, the mother becomes the love she embodies. This is the ultimate gift of Norse sleep wisdom. The recognition that consciousness is not contained within the boundaries of individual bodies, but flows freely through all forms, connecting every apparent separate thing in an invisible web of shared being. The craftsman who shapes wood by day dreams of being shaped himself by invisible hands that work with infinite patience and skill. In his dream, he is both the carver and the carved, learning through direct experience how yielding to a greater vision allows one's true nature to emerge. The wood teaches him that resistance creates suffering, while surrender to the artist's intention reveals beauty that was always present but hidden beneath the surface. The storyteller dreams of being a story herself, told by the great cosmic narrator whose voice is heard in wind and wave, in the crackling of fire and the silence between snowflakes. As she experiences herself as narrative rather than narrator, she understands that every life is a tale being told by consciousness itself, each person a character through whom the universe explores its own infinite potential for experience and expression. The merchant dreams of trading not in goods but in blessings, carrying from place to place not material commodities but gifts of understanding, appreciation, and goodwill. His dream caravan moves through landscapes of the heart, stopping at markets where people exchange not coins but moments of genuine connection, where the currency is kindness and the profit is the expansion of love. As the night deepens toward its darkest hour, the dreams take on an even more luminous quality. The harsh realities of survival in a challenging landscape are transformed by sleep into opportunities for spiritual growth and community bonding. The very difficulties that make life hard during waking hours become, in dreams, the raw materials from which strength and wisdom are forged. The fisherman who struggles against storms dreams of learning to sail with them, his boat becoming a partner in an intricate dance with wind and wave. In this dream sailing, he discovers that opposition and cooperation are two faces of the same relationship, that mastery comes not from conquering natural forces, but from learning to move in harmony with them. The hunter who tracks game through snow-covered forests dreams of being tracked himself by invisible hunters, the spirits of all the animals he has taken for food, who follow him not in anger but in gratitude, recognizing his respect for their sacrifice and his understanding of his place in the great web of predator and prey that maintains the balance of life. In his dream, these animal spirits become his teachers, showing him how to hunt not just with skill but with reverence, how to take only what is needed, how to honor the life that is given so that other life might continue. Through their guidance, he learns that every hunt is a sacred ceremony, every successful kill a moment of communion between hunter and hunted that transcends the apparent separation between life and death. The woman who tends the sick dreams of healing not just bodies but the deeper wounds that manifest as physical illness. The wounds of separation, of unlove, of forgetting one's true nature as part of the divine wholeness. In her dream healing work, she uses not just herbs and remedies but the medicine of presence, the healing power of seeing each person as already whole beneath their apparent afflictions. Through dream touch that goes beyond physical contact, she learns to feel the places where life force has become blocked or diminished, and to gently coax it back into flow through the power of compassionate attention. Her hands become conduits for the same healing energy that flows in sunlight and rain, in the growth of plants and the renewal of seasons. The child who struggles with lessons dreams of a school where learning happens not through effort, but through play, where knowledge flows into open minds like water into thirsty soil. In this dream school, every subject reveals itself as an aspect of a single, vast truth, that existence itself is an endless creative expression of intelligence and love. Mathematics becomes the music of the spheres, each number a note in the cosmic symphony. Language reveals itself as the means by which consciousness explores its own nature through countless forms of expression. History transforms into the story of consciousness learning about itself through the experiences of countless individuals and cultures. The warrior's wife, who waits through long campaigns, dreams of standing on a hill that overlooks all the battlefields where her husband has ever fought or will fight. From this expanded perspective, she sees that every conflict is part of a larger pattern of growth and learning, that even the most violent encounters serve the evolution of consciousness toward greater understanding and compassion. In her dream, she can send protection not just to her beloved but to all warriors everywhere, regardless of which side they fight for, recognizing that beneath the surface of conflict, all beings are engaged in the same fundamental struggle, the effort to understand their place in the greater wholeness and to serve something larger than their individual survival. The young man who will soon inherit his father's farm dreams of inheriting not just land but a sacred trust, the responsibility to serve as a bridge between the human community and the living earth that sustains it. In his dream, the soil speaks to him directly, sharing its ancient wisdom about patience, cycles, and the art of nurturing potential into manifestation. The dream earth teaches him that farming is not the imposition of human will upon nature, but a collaboration between human intention and natural intelligence. Every seed planted is a prayer, every harvest a blessing received, every season of rest a recognition that wisdom includes knowing when to act and when to wait. The young woman who spins and weaves dreams of working with threads made not of wool, but of pure light, creating fabrics that can clothe not just bodies but souls. Her dream loom is strung with the music of the spheres, and as she works, her movements create patterns that reflect the underlying harmony of existence itself. Through this dream weaving, she understands that her daily work with fiber and thread is participation in the cosmic creativity that continuously weaves new forms of beauty into existence. Every cloth she creates carries within its pattern something of the divine artistry that shapes galaxies and seasons, flowers. The sleeper's dreams respond to this ancient wind with visions of their own place in the great chain of being that extends from the first stirring of life in primordial seas to the far future, when new forms of consciousness will explore realities not yet imagined. They see themselves as temporary expressions of an eternal creativity, brief notes in an infinite song, unique flowers in an ever-blooming garden. This perspective brings profound peace, for it reveals that no life is insignificant, no dream without meaning, no moment of existence without value. Even the briefest human lifespan contributes something irreplaceable to the ongoing adventure of consciousness exploring itself through countless forms and experiences. The grandmother's dreams now encompass not just her own lifetime, but the lives of all the grandmothers who came before her and all who will come after. She becomes a link in an unbroken chain of feminine wisdom that stretches from the first woman to nurture a child to the last who will close her eyes and trust that life will continue. The warrior's dreams expand to include not just his own battles, but all the struggles that have ever been fought for worthy causes. He becomes part of an eternal army of the spirit, warriors who fight not against other people but against ignorance, cruelty, and despair, using weapons forged from courage, compassion, and unwavering commitment to truth. The mother's dreams embrace not just her own children, but all children everywhere, recognizing that every child born carries within them a unique gift for the world, a particular note that only they can add to the great symphony of existence. Her love becomes a blessing that flows to every young life, strengthening the force that protects innocence and nurtures potential. As these expanded dreams flow through the sleeping household, the very walls of the longhouse seem to become transparent, revealing it to be not separate from the world outside, but intimately connected to the vast web of relationships that sustains all life. The warmth within is continuous with the cold without, the light of the dying fire connected to the light of distant stars. This transparency of boundaries is one of the most precious gifts of deep sleep, the recognition that separation is an illusion maintained by waking consciousness for practical purposes, but that the underlying reality is one of profound interconnection and mutual belonging. The merchant's dreams of distant marketplaces merge with the farmer's dreams of fertile fields, creating visions of abundance that flows freely through all levels of existence. The storyteller's tales blend with the craftsman's creations, weaving narratives that take physical form as tools and treasures that carry within them the power to inspire and transform. The healer's knowledge of herbs combines with the hunter's understanding of animals, creating a comprehensive vision of the natural world as a vast pharmacy where every creature and plant offers its gifts for the healing and nourishment of the whole. In this profound integration of individual dreams into collective vision, the Norse household experiences what their tradition called God sleep. Rest so deep and restorative that it temporarily dissolves the boundaries between human and divine consciousness, allowing mortal awareness to participate directly in the ongoing creation and maintenance of the world. This is not understood as a loss of human identity, but as its fulfillment. The recognition that individual consciousness achieves its highest purpose when it knowingly serves the greater intelligence of which it is part. The personal self is not diminished but expanded, like a drop of water that realizes it is part of an infinite ocean. The child's simple dreams of play and discovery contribute to this divine activity, the gift of wonder and fresh perspective. The elder's dreams of wisdom and completion offer the treasure of integrated experience. The adult's dreams of work and relationship provide the energy of engaged participation in the ongoing adventure of existence. Even the dreams of physical comfort and security serve the greater purpose, for they help create the stable foundation of trust and belonging that allows consciousness to explore its highest possibilities without fear. The dream of warm furs and crackling fires becomes a symbol of the cosmic hospitality that makes all existence feel like home. The sound of snow continues against the walls and roof, each flake a crystalline messenger from the vast silence of the upper atmosphere. The Norse understood snow as one of nature's most perfect teachers, showing through its intricate patterns that infinite diversity can emerge from simple principles, that beauty often lies in the details too small for ordinary vision to perceive. In dreams influenced by the gentle persistence of falling snow, the sleepers learn the art of patient accumulation. How small actions, repeated consistently over time, can create transformations as dramatic as the way individual snowflakes eventually reshape entire landscapes. The grandmother's daily kindnesses, accumulated over decades, become a mountain of blessing that shelters generations. The craftsman's attention to detail, applied day after day, builds a reservoir of skill that can create miracles of beauty and utility. The young woman who will soon be married dreams of her future love as layers of trust and understanding that will accumulate over years of shared experience, each moment of connection adding to a foundation of intimacy that will prove stronger than any storm. Her dream marriage becomes a symbol of how all meaningful relationships are built, not through dramatic gestures alone, but through the patient accumulation of small acts of care and attention. The child dreams of learning as a kind of internal snowfall, with each lesson settling gently into the landscape of his mind, gradually creating new patterns of understanding that will shape all his future perceptions. His dream education becomes a process as natural and beautiful as the way snow transforms a familiar landscape into something magical and new. As the night reaches its deepest point, when the darkness is most complete and the silence most profound, the dreams of all the sleepers seem to crystallize into a single, luminous understanding that encompasses the essence of Norse sleep wisdom. This understanding is not conveyed through words or images, but through a direct knowing that penetrates every level of consciousness. In this moment of perfect clarity, it is revealed that sleep is indeed what the Norse always claimed it to be. Not an absence of consciousness, but its return to its source. Not a departure from reality, but an arrival at the deepest truth. Not a separation from the divine, but a reunion with it. The sleepers understand, in a way that transcends intellectual knowledge, that they are eternal beings having a temporary human experience, that their individual lives are movements in an infinite symphony, that their dreams are threads in a tapestry of such beauty and complexity that no single consciousness could encompass its full glory. This revelation brings not overwhelm but profound peace, for it shows that they need not carry the burden of existence alone, that they are supported by an intelligence vast beyond imagination, yet intimately concerned with their smallest hopes and fears. They are held in love by a presence that knows them more completely than they know themselves, yet cherishes their unique individual expression. The fire has burned down now to the faintest glow, just a whisper of warmth that speaks more of memory than present reality. Yet the longhouse remains cozy and welcoming, as if the very act of shared dreaming has charged the air with a warmth that transcends physical heat. The sleepers rest in perfect comfort, their bodies relaxed and their minds flowing through landscapes of wonder and wisdom. In this deepest phase of sleep, time itself seems to pause, creating a space between night and day where eternity touches temporal existence. The dreams take on a quality of timeless peace, showing scenes not of dramatic action, but of perfect moments when everything is exactly as it should be. The grandmother dreams of sitting by a window through which she can see all the seasons simultaneously. Spring flowers blooming beside summer grain fields. Autumn leaves falling while winter snow sparkles in moonlight. All of life's changes are present together in eternal harmony, showing her that aging is not loss but integration, that wisdom comes from learning to see wholeness where others perceive only fragments. The warrior dreams of standing guard at the gates of peace itself, his weapons transformed into tools of protection for all that is innocent and vulnerable in the world. His strength serves not conquest but preservation. His courage defends not territory but the sacred space where love can flourish without fear. The mother dreams of nursing not just her own children, but the infant potential that exists within every human heart, offering the nourishment of unconditional acceptance that allows each person's unique gifts to grow to full expression. Her love becomes the universal force that nurtures all growth and healing. As these timeless dreams unfold in the deepest hours of night, they create a reservoir of peace and wisdom that will sustain the dreamers through all the challenges of waking life. The Norse understood that such deep rest was not luxury but necessity, that consciousness requires regular return to its source in order to maintain its clarity and vitality. Just as the body requires food and shelter to maintain its health, the soul requires the nourishment of dreams and the shelter of deep sleep to remain connected to its divine nature. Without this regular communion with the sacred dimensions of existence, human life becomes diminished, caught in the surface concerns that obscure the deeper meaning and purpose of existence. But with access to the wisdom and peace available in sleep, even the hardest life becomes bearable. Even the greatest challenges become opportunities for growth. Even the deepest sorrows become doorways to compassion. The longhouse dwellers who share this night of profound dreaming will wake tomorrow, not just rested in body but renewed in spirit, carrying within them treasures of understanding that will enrich their waking hours. The snow continues to fall outside, each flake adding to the blanket of peace that covers the sleeping world. Soon, the first faint light of dawn will begin to touch the eastern horizon, calling what we've lost, what we can learn. A gentle return to ancient wisdom. The fire burns low now, its embers glowing like distant stars in the hearth of memory. We have walked through the long halls of Viking tradition, felt the weight of woolen cloaks against our shoulders, breathed the crisp air of northern nights. And now we must step back through the veil of centuries, returning to our own time with hands full of forgotten wisdom. But oh, what a journey it has been. What treasures we have gathered in the quiet chambers of the past. In the flickering light of understanding, we see now what we have lost. Not the longships or the silver arm rings, not the great halls echoing with the songs of skalds, but something far more precious. Something that once lived in every hearth, in every evening ritual, in every moment when day surrendered to night. We have lost the art of true darkness. Think of it now, the way evening once fell like a blessing across the Norse lands. No harsh fluorescent suns burning away the natural rhythms of the body. No screens casting their blue-white spell across weary faces. Just the gentle descent of twilight, honored and welcomed, as the great wheel of day and night turned as it has for countless ages. The Vikings knew something we have forgotten. They understood that light has its season, and darkness has its place. In their world, when the sun set behind the mountains, casting long purple shadows across the snow, when the first stars emerged like silver pinpricks in the vast northern sky, the body knew. It remembered its ancient covenant with sleep. Picture yourself in that longhouse again, but this time as a bridge between worlds. Feel the rough-hewn timber beneath your palms, still warm from the day's fire. Smell the lingering smoke, the dried herbs hanging from the rafters, the honest scent of wool and fur and human belonging. Here, in this sacred space between past and present, we can learn to remember. The fire settles lower, casting fewer shadows now. And in this dimming light, we see the first lesson clearly. Our homes were once sanctuaries of gathering dusk. Not blazing beacons fighting against the night, but gentle havens that welcomed the darkness like an old friend. In our time, we flood our evenings with artificial light, as if night itself were an enemy to be conquered. We fill the hours before sleep with the harsh glow of screens, the cold fire of electronics. Our eyes strain against brightness when they should be resting in shadow. Our minds race with stimulation when they should be settling into quietude. But the Vikings, they knew the wisdom of letting go. When evening came, they dimmed their world gradually, naturally. Oil lamps flickered and guttered out, The great fire in the center of the hall burned down to coals. And in that gentle darkness, the body began its ancient preparation for sleep. You can reclaim this wisdom. In your own home, in your own time, you can honor the coming of evening as they did. As the sun begins its descent, begin dimming your lights. Not all at once, but gradually like the natural fading of day. Let candles take the place of harsh bulbs. Allow the warm glow of firelight, or its gentle echo in amber lamplight, to guide your evening hours. Feel how your body responds to this gift of dimness. Notice how your shoulders relax, how your breathing deepens. This is your ancient inheritance awakening, the knowledge written in your bones, the wisdom that knows when it is time to rest. And then there are the rituals. Oh, the beautiful rituals of preparation that we have cast aside in our hurried modern lives. The Vikings understood that sleep was not something to stumble into, exhausted and unprepared. It was a sacred transition, worthy of ceremony, deserving of care. Remember the way they moved through their evening preparations. The careful banking of the fire, each ember placed with intention. The folding of the day's work, the setting aside of tools and concerns. The gathering of family around the warmth, sharing the quiet moments before rest. You can weave these threads into your own life, creating your own evening rituals of transition. Set aside the last hour before sleep as sacred time. Put away the tools of your trade, the devices, the documents, the endless demands of modern life. Create space for the mind to settle, for the heart to quiet. Perhaps you light a candle and let its flame dance in the darkness, a small sun bidding farewell to the day. Perhaps you brew a cup of herbal tea, letting the warm liquid carry you deeper into evening's embrace. The Vikings knew the power of such simple ceremonies, not grand gestures, but quiet acknowledgments of transition. In the longhouse, they might have shared a final drink from the communal cup, the ale or mead warm with honey and herbs. They might have spoken softly of the day's small victories, the ordinary blessings that fill a life with meaning. And in that sharing, in that gentle recognition of day's end, they prepared their hearts for the journey into sleep. You can create your own version of this ancient communion. Share the day's gratitudes with those you love. Speak softly of simple joys, of moments that brought peace or laughter or wonder. Let your voice carry the weight of appreciation, the recognition that each day, however ordinary, is a gift worthy of acknowledgement. And in that sharing, in that gentle reflection, you honor the Viking understanding that sleep begins not in the bedchamber, but in the heart that has found peace with the day that was. The herbs, they knew about the herbs. Throughout the Norse lands, in every season that would yield them, they gathered the green allies of rest. Meadowsweet and chamomile, lavender and vervain, the countless plants that offer their quiet assistance to the weary soul. In your own time, you can rediscover these ancient partnerships. A cup of chamomile tea, its golden warmth spreading through your chest like captured sunlight. The gentle scent of lavender on your pillow, carrying you on invisible wings toward the shores of sleep. These are not mere luxuries, but medicines in the truest sense, healers that work not through force, but through harmony. The Vikings scattered herbs among their sleeping furs, understanding that rest comes not just to the body, but to all the senses. They knew that the path to deep sleep winds through the garden of simple pleasures, the touch of soft fabric, the scent of dried flowers, the taste of honey dissolved in warm milk. Even now, you can close your eyes and imagine that Viking bedchamber, the sleeping platform spread with thick furs, soft beyond modern comprehension. The air sweet with the scent of dried meadowsweet, the walls holding the memory of countless peaceful nights. Here is comfort without luxury, rest without excess, just the simple meeting of human need with nature's generous provision. You can create your own version of this sanctuary. Choose natural fibers that breathe with your body, wool and linen, cotton grown under open skies. Let your sleeping space be a retreat from the artificial, a return to the textures and scents that have comforted humans for thousands of years. But perhaps the greatest gift the Vikings offer us is the understanding of rhythm. They lived in harmony with the great cycles, not just of day and night, but of season and weather, of the body's own tides of energy and rest. In winter, when the northern nights stretched long across the frozen landscape, they did not fight against the darkness. They embraced it, understanding that the body craves more sleep when the world lies dormant. They rose later and retired earlier, following the wisdom of the season rather than the arbitrary demands of constant productivity. And in summer, when the midnight sun painted the sky in shades of gold and rose, they adjusted their rhythms accordingly. They understood that sleep is not a rigid requirement, but a flowing dance with the natural world. You can learn to listen to these rhythms again. In the deep winter months, honor your body's desire for longer rest. Allow yourself to sleep as the bears sleep, deeply and without guilt. In the bright summer days, embrace the natural lightness that comes with extended daylight, but still create sacred space for rest when your body calls for it. This is not laziness, this is wisdom. This is the understanding that we are part of the natural world, not separate from it. Our sleep, like the sleep of all living things, follows patterns older than civilization, deeper than any human schedule. The Vikings also understood something we have largely forgotten, that preparation for sleep begins at sunrise. The quality of rest depends not just on the hour before bed, but on how we move through all the hours that precede it. They worked with their hands, their bodies moving in the ancient rhythms of physical labor. They felt the sun on their faces and the wind in their hair. They lived close to the earth, close to the cycles that govern all life. And when evening came, their bodies were ready for rest, not wired with artificial stimulation, not buzzing with the electric energy of modern life. You can reclaim some of this physical authenticity. Spend time each day in natural light, even if only for a few moments. Feel the weather on your skin. Move your body in ways that connect you to your physical self. Not the punishing exercise of modern fitness culture, but the gentle, purposeful movement that humans have always needed. Walk in the morning air and feel your feet against the earth. Tend a plant or touch the bark of a tree. Let your hands remember the textures that are not plastic or metal or glass. These small acts of connection prepare the body for rest in ways we have forgotten, creating the foundation for sleep that is deep and true. In the Viking world, the day's work earned the night's rest. Not through exhaustion, but through the natural satisfaction of the body that has moved and worked and participated in the world of growing things. And then there is the matter of the mind, the endless churning of thoughts that keeps so many of us from rest. The Vikings had their own concerns, their own worries about weather and harvest, about family and community. But they also had practices for setting these concerns aside when the time for sleep arrived. They understood the power of story, of letting the mind settle into the rhythm of ancient tales rather than the anxious circling of daily problems. Breathe in and out. Settle your shoulders, loosen the jaw, and feel the last fragments of the day grow light, as if they were snowflakes caught on a sleeve, melting the moment you notice them. Picture a winter sky over the far north, a vault of deep velvet scattered with silver. There is no haste in that sky, no hurry in the turning of those distant wheels. They revolve as they have since the first fires were kindled. Slow, patient, eternal. Now imagine the ground beneath that sky. A quiet plain of moonlit snow, untouched but for the faint ribbon of footprints that lead almost secretively toward a single longhouse. The roof is thick with turf and fresh, fallen white. From the smoke hole rises a slender gray plume, curling upward until it thins into the night, carrying with it the scent of pine and spruce and a memory of flame. Follow that trail of smoke downward, through the thatch, past the rafters, and find yourself at the door, a heavy plank door banded with iron that has seen 100 winters. It stands slightly ajar, inviting, and the glow that spills from within is the color of ember gold honey. Step inside, softly, softly, and let the hush of the world close behind you. The door settles with a modest thud, and at once the cold remains outside, like a respectful guest who knows where he is not needed. The interior is dim but warm. A single hearth burns low at the heart of the hall, round stones holding the memory of daylight heat, logs collapsing into red coals, crackling in a language older than words. Around the fire are woven blankets, sheep-wool cloaks, and great pelts of bear and reindeer, their fur brushed smooth by careful hands long gone to sleep. Feel the warmth folding around you, layer upon layer, until the chill becomes only a story, something told by travelers never felt. Breathe in, the soft resin of pine wood, a drift of dried juniper laid upon the coals moments ago, and perhaps a hint of honey mead from a cup left warming at the edge. Breathe out, and let each exhale loosen the knots tucked in the shoulders. Let it glide down the spine, untying every place that held on too tightly through the day. Somewhere overhead, beams the size of ship masts hold the roof aloft. They are dark with age, carved in quiet spirals and not work. Stories of voyages and harvests and midsummer suns. Yet tonight they carry no weight for you. They exist only to cradle the room in safety, reminding the storm outside that here, in this hush, we sleep under good guardians. Listen, a mellow wind roams the eaves. stroking the rafters like a mother smoothing a child's hair. Occasionally a flake of snow slips from the roof, landing in the drift outside with a sound so soft, you might mistake it for your own sigh. Closer in, hear the small sounds of settling timber, the crack-pop of sap meeting flame, the gentle creak of wood easing into calm, the almost inaudible whisper of ash as it settles. These are slow sounds, content sounds, sounds with round edges and quiet middles. They ask nothing of you but presence, which is to say, they ask nothing at all. Now find a resting place near the hearth. A low bench, perhaps, draped in thick gray fur. Its surface gives beneath you, molding to hip and shoulder. A second pelt waits for your shoulders. Pull it over, let it spill across chest and arms, heavy enough to remind the heart to beat unhurriedly, gentle enough to feel like an embrace. Notice the mattress of sweetgrass beneath the bench. Even through layers of hide, a faint summer fragrance rises, green memory in midwinter, and with it the assurance that the wheel of the seasons will turn again. But not tonight, not now. Tonight time itself seems to drowse. The minutes lengthen like shadows at sunset, each one stretching comfortably, until it meets the next and merges, becoming an unbroken ribbon of ease. Allow your breathing to join that ribbon. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, pause for 4. Repeat if it feels pleasant, or abandon the count and simply drift. On the slow tide of inhale and exhale, like the North Sea when the wind is gentle, and the oars rest silent on the gunwale. The glow on the ceiling shifts, amber to russet to deep cherry, as logs collapse inward. Sparks rise, wheel, and vanish, tiny constellations repeating the great ones outside. You may sense a hush of voices far down the hall, other dreamers tucked beneath their own furs, breathing in time with yours, each exhalation a thread in the tapestry of night. Though you cannot hear words, you feel the shape of their comfort, a community of sleepers keeping watch by simply resting. Above the door hangs a small bronze bell, a charm against ill weather. It does not ring tonight. It only gleams when a wayward ember flares, then slips again into shadow. Its silence is a promise that all is well. Let your thoughts slow until they are single snowflakes, turning lazily through an unhurried sky. They land on the tongue of evening, melt, and are gone, leaving only cool sweetness behind. If a memory rises, greet it softly, wrap it in wool, and set it beside the fire. Tell it may sit a while, or wander back into the dark. Either way, you will not follow. You are busy folding into warmth. Perhaps you notice the scent of roasted barley now, or the faint tang of salt from cured fish strung near the rafters. These are notes in the lullaby of a Northman's night. Familiar, steadying, uncomplicated. Each aroma is a step deeper into rest. Feel the pulse in your neck grow slow and deep, echoing the distant cadence of ocean swells against fjord walls. That rhythm is ancient, older than any hall, older than any name carved into the bow of a ship. Tonight it is yours, and it is enough. Somewhere in the thatch, a snowmelt droplet forms, slides, and falls with a soft tick onto the outside sill. One small note in a vast, spacious silence, like the pluck of a single harp string in a sleeping hall. It fades, and the quiet expands again, round and unbroken. Bring awareness to the weight of your eyelids. Notice how gladly they lower. When the fire flickers lower still, when the golden light drains toward umber, and the shadows weave together like the threads of a dark cloak. Allow the cloak to settle around you. If you wish, picture a gently rocking longship, its hull pulled high on a summer shore, blanketed now beneath winter snow. It rests, keel cradled in sand, mast removed or stacked, dreaming of green seas it will meet when warmth returns. Even the vessel that once fought waves taller than rooftops knows how to surrender to the season of sleep. So too do you surrender. No battle calls, no sail must be raised. Your saga for this night is the saga of stillness. Breathe. Slowly the fire settles into a soft red cradle. Shadows pool in the corners, rich as ink, yet gentle, ready to carry the last sparks of thought away. You might imagine a distant skald murmuring an old lullaby. Something about Frigg weaving clouds, about the snow being her down feathers shaken loose. But even that tale blurs at the edges, rock smooth by drowsiness. Let yourself lie down fully now, spine nested into the forgiving furs, knees soft, hands resting wherever they choose. The pelt beneath you warms with your own heat, returning it in a slow tide, the perfect exchange, giver and receiver at once. Outside, the wind turns pages in the night. You need not read them. They are written in a language of drifting snow, understood best with closed eyes. Faint starlight slips through a high smoke vent, tracing silver on the opposite wall, forming runes that say only, peace, peace, peace. If you listen with the heart, you might feel the earth's quiet rotation, as if the longhouse itself were a cradle, rocked by unseen hands, the great mother of mountains, the father of seas, rocking you toward dreams. Each breath is an oar stroke into deeper calm. The farther you glide, the softer the air becomes, until even the notion of rowing dissolves, and you drift on mirrored water, sky above, sky below, stars strewn like seeds in fertile darkness. Allow a final scan of the body, if it pleases you, forehead smooth as newly planed wood, eyes resting in gentle hollows, cheeks slack, lips parted just enough, to let the winter-cooled air meet the hearth-warmed air, and become a single, perfect temperature. Shoulders sink, ribs ease wide, belly rises and falls, a small boat on a tranquil fjord. Hips, thighs, calves, ankles, and heels, all float in their own quiet currents. No corner of you is forgotten. No muscle is asked to stand watch. The hall itself keeps guard, timber and stone and slow, breathing fire. Thought becomes mist. Mist becomes night. Night becomes rest. You are beneath firs in a warm longhouse. Snow drifts outside. A low, faithful fire glows within. The world is vast, but this moment is small, and in its smallness, complete. Allow sleep to gather like wool in a spindle. Soft, fine, inevitabile, twisting into a single, strong thread that tethers you gently to dreams of quiet seas, green valleys, and morning sun that will rise. But not yet. Not yet. For now, remain in the hush between snowflake and ember, between heartbeat and breath, between the word good night and the silence that follows it. And when at last the silence deepens so fully that even these words fade like smoke into starlit air, let them go. Drift, traveler, drift. May your rest be long, your dreams kind, your spirit warmed by the hearths of the north. Breathe once more, and let the night keep you, until another gentle voice, on another quiet evening, calls you back to wakefulness. Sleep well, Northman.